After your performance is over, you can leave, but she is the female lead in 12 Days Journey and must stay. Not, do you really have to finish this play? Of course. After hearing Leon's words, Master Wild obstinately said, even a bad play is better than one that gets stopped midway. Once my drama begins, no matter what happens in between, it can't stop. But can you really keep this play going? Pointing towards the direction of the tavern, Leon reminded this single-minded master. Although I haven't seen this play, if I'm not mistaken, the scene that just happened was meant to get the male and female leads into some trouble together, quickly bringing them closer so the invitation for 12 Days Journey can be justified. Now that I saved Agatha, your male lead spoke up, but all he really did was take a beating. Your play has been disrupted. Is there any point in continuing? It is very necessary. As for how to continue, it's not for you, a troublesome guest, to worry about. After glaring at Leon in frustration, Master Wild coldly dismissed him. Besides, since you were a ticket-buying spectator of my play, I won't hold this disruption against you, but from now on, you are not welcome to see any of my plays. My Morning Star troupe and I do not welcome you. So, there's no room for negotiation? After hearing Master Wild's words, Leon looked at the strange door that suddenly appeared out of thin air, labeled as an exit, and couldn't help but sigh again. It was impossible to leave the princess behind. Although up till now, the Drama King had shown no intent to harm and seemed willing to communicate, inspiring hope for a resolution through negotiation, it still was an anomalous object. No matter how trustworthy it seemed, it couldn't be fully trusted. Furthermore, it was already on the brink of losing control, or else it wouldn't have snapped and trapped thousands over a critic's taunt. If the play didn't end well, who knew what extreme actions it might take? Moreover, he was still a cleaner, responsible for handling rogue anomalous objects, and capturing this Master Wild to turn over to the Bureau. There seemed to be nothing to negotiate from this perspective. Perhaps he was overthinking it. Since you don't want to leave, then why not just stay? With patience running thin after waiting a while, and not seeing Leon heading for the exit, Master Wild coldly snorted, shut the door to the outside world, and waved him away like a fly, saying with disgust, although I don't know why you are immune to my control, I am the creator of this world, and have various ways to deal with you. Go lie at the bottom of the sea. Before 12 Days Journey concludes, do not appear in this city. With Master Wild's order, the world around Leon quickly distorted, instantly moving over tens of kilometers. The clean, empty street from a second ago transformed into a vast, dark ocean. Strangely, though the world around Leon visibly changed, when he took a step on the seabed, he inexplicably returned to his original place, standing once more on the deep teal streets of the town as if nothing had changed. What's going on? I am the creator of this world, capable of replacing the sun with the moon. Why can't I move a supporting character? Thanks to materialism. If I can escape safely this time, you'll be the MVP without a doubt. Of course, Leon kept to himself why he was immune to displacement. After glancing at the radiant crimson badge in his panel, his mouth curled slightly upward. Then he looked up at the Drama King, offering a meaningful evaluation. Not even understanding your own created world, maybe that drama critic was right. You don't really grasp theater. Surprised by the sudden taunt, it took Master Wild a moment to react to what Leon said, and then his anger flared as he scowled and shouted, "You're spouting! Do you remember what I did just now?" Pointing towards the tavern again, Leon earnestly and deceptively explained, "In your original script, my character, after showing cowardice and highlighting the lead Elijah's bravery, could already exit, naturally to be kicked out at will. But now, things have changed just having saved Agatha, and if this play had an audience, at least half would already have their attention on me and Agatha as she leaves. If you dumped me in the sea now, could you still continue your play? For this theatrical world, a complete structure, rationality, and theatricality are fundamental rules to abide by, and a character as significant as myself saving the heroine wisely and cleverly just a second ago, suddenly disappearing without explanation. Does that stick to the rules of the theatrical world? It seems that could indeed be the reason, but after all, I'm the author? After hearing Leon's seemingly logical nonsense, Master Wilde, although feeling something was off, couldn't think of any other reasonable explanation, and resorted to arguing. Without you, it truly wouldn't be complete, but I'm the creator of this world, and even the 12 Days Journey script is penned by me, so… You're just a scriptwriter. What do you know of 12 Days Journey? Through this conversation, roughly estimating the IQ and EQ of the drama king, and realizing that in intelligence and emotional intelligence, it slightly lagged behind the average human level, Leon squinted slightly before intensifying his bold bluffing. In any case, after that commotion at the tavern, I've successfully joined the 12 Days Journey storyline, and you can't just erase me. Even as the creator of this world, you can't largely violate the theatrical world's rules. Now you can't do anything about me. The only thing you can do is silently accept my presence. Damn it! Don't you dare! Perhaps believing in Leon's nonsense or unwilling to let flaws linger that couldn't be fixed within his masterpiece, Master Wilde hesitated a bit before really not trying to write Leon out of the plot, instead biting the bullet and accepting his existence. Just you wait. I'm going back now to rewrite the later acts. Looking at the bastard who disrupted his play and even instigated the provocation, the furious Master Wilde trembled with rage, exclaiming, "Don't think that getting a little part means you can replace me as the controller of the theatrical world. You, a half-baked outsider, can't write a script more beloved by the audience than mine. Once I complete the new plot by the second, at the latest the first scene of the third act, I'll be able to completely rid you of my world." Wait, whether or not I'll be kicked out is one thing, but what's this replacement idea with controlling the theatrical world? After hearing Master Wilde's harsh threat, Leon wasn't angered. Instead, his controlled expression slightly raised an eyebrow, with a contemplative look emerging in his eyes. Listening to what he said, could it be that by completely disrupting the original plot and rewriting it to be more popular with the audience than his original script, one could become the new controller of the theatrical world? Swish, swish, swish. The azure sea rippled, gently and affectionately licking the golden sandy shore. On the old and orderly stone pier, a few scattered boats swayed lightly in the dock, while several seagulls, gilded by the sunlight, lazily circled above, occasionally letting out a few melodious chirps. The morning in the seaside town of Ankara remained as peaceful and beautiful as ever. However, unlike usual, the bustling dockside tavern was now deserted, with no patrons entering or leaving for quite some time. And Agatha, the waitress who had become the dream girl of the town's youth due to her playful yet fiery personality, and an even more fiery figure, was also not at the dockside tavern. Instead, she was standing in front of the only post office in Ankara, frowning as she leafed through the past newspapers posted at the entrance. Finding a job lately has been a bit tough. After flipping through many job sections in past newspapers and failing to find a suitable job, Agatha, who had just become unemployed this morning, couldn't help but let out a soft sigh. After the incident at the tavern yesterday, although she was carried out by Mr. Joseph and wasn't injured in the scuffle, the three drunk sailors gave Mr. Elijah, who had spoken up for justice, a good beating. Worse yet, by the time she brought the police back, those three sailors had taken advantage of the moment when no one was there, pried open the tavern's cellar, and consumed and destroyed all the stock inside. They even cleaned out the money from the counter before disappearing without a trace. When the real owner of the tavern returned and learned that all this trouble had started because of her, he became furious. Not only did he deduct all her wages as compensation, but he also fired her on the spot. Having left home in a hurry, she didn't bring much money with her. Although she had saved up a bit working as a waitress in the tavern these past few months, it was still not much. She could only barely make ends meet, and with no suitable jobs in the newspaper now, what was she to do? "Are you Miss Agatha?" Just as Agatha was feeling anxious and helpless in front of the post office due to her financial constraints, A somewhat surprised voice came from behind her. Agatha turned around in surprise and saw that it was the guest with whom she had a very enjoyable conversation yesterday, the one who courageously stood up during the disturbance by the sailors. Mr. Elijah, looking at the man in front of her, with bandages around his head and a large bruise on his forehead, yet still retaining an elegant demeanor, Agatha couldn't help but blush. Feeling a bit guilty for leaving him to take the beating yesterday, she shyly greeted him. "You, how are you? I'm really sorry about yesterday. If it weren't for me, you wouldn't have." "It's nothing." Even though Elijah was a bit frustrated about being beaten for no reason, when he saw the blushing beauty in front of him, his annoyance unconsciously vanished. He smiled and replied, "Yesterday's incident was not your fault. You were just caught up by those troublesome drunks. As for the injuries on me, when I decided to stand up yesterday, I had already prepared myself for the possibility of getting beaten. This is the price a man pays when he acts in accordance with his principles, and it is also a medal commemorating my courage. It has nothing to do with a beautiful lady who was merely affected by the incident, so you need not feel guilty." Mr. Elijah. Seeing Elijah, who was clearly beaten so badly, yet still trying his best to comfort her, Agatha felt a warmth in her heart. She clasped both hands to her chest, and with eyes full of gentleness, she softly said, "Your bravery and kindness, like the morning sun, illuminate the dark corners of my heart. They are like the endless waves of the ocean, making me. I can't stand it anymore." At this moment, Leon, who had been sitting inside the post office for half the day, couldn't help but push open the window and stick his head out, humorously complaining, "Can't you two just talk normally? You're just greeting each other. But it's getting all poetic and drawn out. At this rate, the conversation might as well break into song. If I hadn't interrupted, would you have started dancing in the street later? And then the rest of us bystanders would jump out of our cars and stand on the roofs to dance with you?" After Leon's humorous complaint, young Ha, the yellow-haired dog sitting on his shoulder, nodded its little head in agreement and energetically chimed in, "Woof, woof, woof. Exactly. Is this Mr. Joseph?" Seeing the person and dog sticking their heads out of the window, the protagonist couple of 12 Days' Journey were momentarily dumbfounded. It was because, compared to yesterday's attire that made one look like a disoriented young man, today's Mr. Joseph appeared a bit too normal. Beneath a well-tailored gray wool coat, he wore a simple, fitting vest and a slim-fitting pleated shirt, with a neatly folded handkerchief tucked into the pocket at his chest. He seemed somewhat gentlemanly. The only thing that wasn't quite gentlemanly was that one extra button on his collar was unfastened, revealing a well-defined collarbone and fair neck. Moving upward, one would see a well-contoured jawline and slightly upturned lips, combined with a high nose and deep, bright eyes, giving off the impression of a decently good-looking man. There was no way around it, whether it was Leon in reality or Mr. Joseph in 12 Days' Journey. Neither was the type of character with earth-shatteringly good looks. Even though Leon had put effort into dressing nicely for the occasion, even secretly applying some eyeshadow under his collarbone to accentuate its lines, ultimately his looks could only be described as slightly handsome. When passing by on the street, he might get a few extra glances, but that was about it. But just like beauty in women is often enhanced through comparison, the current Mr. Joseph, though slightly handsome, appeared stunningly elegant through a comparison to yesterday's flamboyant and crazed outfit. Such a contrast elevated him to the level of strikingly handsome. Asterisk, what do you think? Astounding, right? Asterisk. Seeing the two outside the post office, both filled with surprise, Leon couldn't help but slightly raise his eyebrows, revealing a profoundly meaningful smile. Although he didn't know if it was true or not, according to the information revealed by the Drama King, if he could thoroughly disrupt the script and achieve a higher evaluation than the original play, then he might become the new ruler of the theatrical world. And to achieve this, first, he needed to figure out who exactly issued these evaluations. And the ones most likely to provide the evaluations were the residents of the small town of Ankara, the originally 3,000-member audience of the Central Cross Theater. As for what these audience members like to watch, last night, Leon broke into the registry office through a window and went through the resident registration forms of the town. He found that as much as 70% of them were women. Moreover, the two plays today were a romantic comedy, 12 Days Journey, and an older person younger person tragedy, Madame Helena. It wasn't hard to guess what these viewers would enjoy, and how to make the new 12 Days Journey more appealing than the original, with only one controllable role in the presence and interference of the drama king. For someone like Leon, who had been exposed to various works from another world, this might actually be the simplest task. Mr. Joseph, not knowing Leon's current plan, but recognizing his identity from the tuft of yellow hair, the same color as Youngha's head, Agatha exclaimed in surprise, "It's only been a day since I last saw you, but your changes are really quite significant. Not only significant, but also quite expensive. These clothes alone cost more than my half-month salary at the Purification Bureau. A clothing store in a seaside town selling clothes at the same price as the capital city? That's just absurd." After mentally griping about Ankara's bizarre prices, Leon smiled and responded, "It's nothing much, really, just a change of clothes." "Yeah, sure, just a change of clothes, but you look a lot more pleasing to the eye now." Remembering Mr. Joseph's past outfits and comparing them to his current appearance, Agatha couldn't help but let the corners of her lips curl up slightly. She tried hard to suppress her smile but couldn't hold it back. "Go ahead and laugh if you want." Blinking his eyes at the princess who seemed on the verge of laughter, Leon thought about his character setup, while indulgently and gently saying, "If it can make my rose bloom with a smile, then it's worth being laughed at by everyone." Well, it seems that only the face has changed. Mr. Joseph is still the same Mr. Joseph. Shaking her head helplessly, Agatha, no longer a waitress and not needing to accommodate customers, said, "Mr. Joseph, please don't say things like that anymore. I'm just myself, not anyone's Rose. Okay, my most beautiful Rose." This person was hopeless. Looking at Leon, whose eyes were full of herself, Agatha shook her head and abandoned the idea of changing his mind. She turned her attention back to the job ads in the newspaper, ready to find a job for herself. Noticing her gaze, the male lead Elijah had a few strands of transparent threads slightly quiver over his head. Following a stroke of inspiration, Elijah asked thoughtfully, "By the way, Miss Agatha, shouldn't you be working at the Dock Tavern right now? Why are you at the post office?" "I lost my job." After briefly explaining what had happened, Agatha said with a bit of helplessness, "I probably won't be staying here long, maybe just a couple of weeks. So I need to find a temporary job, but all these job ads are looking for long-term employees. I don't want to deceive anyone, so it's a bit troublesome now. A couple of weeks of temp work?" Hearing Agatha's words, Elijah couldn't help but feel a stirring in his heart. Remembering his desire to find a local guide, he straightforwardly said, How about coming to work for me?" Already anticipating that Agatha would probably lose her job and having loitered at the post office for several hours, Leon quickly intercepted with a preformed excuse. "Although my parents left me a huge fortune, they died early in a shipwreck. It's just me and my grandmother at home now. My grandmother is very ill lately, and she hopes to see me married soon, so can you help me by posing as my fiancé for a few days?" "Oh well." Hearing Leon's job offer, the male lead Elijah immediately shut his mouth. He had to stay quiet. This Mr. Joseph sacrificed both his parents and grandfather, leaving only a dying grandmother whose last wish was to see her grandson get married. How could he compete when he only needed a guide to visit a few attractions? Isn't that inappropriate? Upon hearing Mr. Joseph's request, the kind-hearted Agatha bit her lower lip and hesitated. "Mr. Joseph, I don't mind helping you with this, but I'm planning to leave in a few days. At that time." "There may not be an at that time." Leon sighed and said, "Although I've known for a long time that birth, old age, illness, and death are inevitable, I still hope my grandmother can leave without regrets. On another note, I am truly sorry for my previous harassment. Initially, I acted this way to prevent you from being bothered by others, wishing to get to know you better. Maybe then you'd agree to become my Sigh. Forgive me, my Aro. Miss Agatha, I have been somewhat selfish in the past. Regardless of whether you choose to help me this time, I won't trouble you again in the future. So, was his effort to court me before intended to prevent harassment while ensuring his grandmother's peace of mind? With only a vague memory of events before the plot unfolded, Agatha's bright eyes softened upon learning the truth Leon had concocted overnight. Considering this, though Mr. Joseph was a bit odd, he was undeniably a good person and quite filial. Should I perhaps just... Young master, Mr. Joseph. Just as Leon landed a grandma's gravely ill punch, followed by an I have my reasons palm, executing a set of 18 styles of temporary girlfriend that stunned both parties. A finely dressed butler waddled over from a distance in haste. Upon seeing Mr. Joseph, the portly butler was overjoyed and rushed over, grabbing Leon's arm in a pleading manner. I've finally found you. Quick, you must come home with me. Your grandmother got into a row with old lady Pomona from the neighboring estate over an imported silk scarf from the east and even swatted her swollen with a broom. You must go home and persuade her. Elijah? ? Agatha? Leon? You son of a bitch, you really pulled it off. Last night I came back to Joseph's house, and you wouldn't even open the door, leaving me to sleep on the street. Now you recognize me as the young master just to mess with me. Huh. Glancing at the transparent threads above the fat butler's head and knowing that the drama king was pulling the strings, Leon, aware he couldn't resist, decisively flew into a rage and said, What are you doing here? Didn't I instruct you to take the 500 elite guards loyal to me and go to the grandest merchant guild my grandfather, a grand noble, left me to buy the most beautiful rose fit for me in this world for Agatha? This bastard, taking advantage of the situation to change the setup, listening to Leon's answer filled entirely with his own subplots that couldn't exactly be called smuggling in private goods, the drama king, orchestrating everything, ground his teeth in anger but couldn't do anything about Leon, who was capable of derailing plans. Thus, he swallowed his pride and accepted Leon's newly added setting, refraining from having the fat butler contradict it. Satisfied with his success, Leon refrained from further disrupting the plot. Instead, he acted as a supporting role ought to by offering an awkward smile to the two main characters before wretchedly yet painfully leaving the post office to inventory his newly earned wealth at home. Meanwhile, the male and female leads left behind were so dumbfounded by this outlandish reversal and domestic drama that they stood in place, silent for a long while. Eventually, Elijah broke the silence. This Mr. Joseph is quite interesting, isn't he? Well, I'm planning to tour Ankara for the next 2 weeks. If you need a temporary job, would you like to be my guide? Okay. 12 Days Journey Act 1. Meeting at the Tavern concludes. As a troublemaker exited with a fortune rivaling kingdoms in wealth, the male and female protagonists finally reached an agreement. The first act of 12 Days Journey stumbled awkwardly to a close. Following the principle of one act, one intermission in theatrical arrangements, before the start of the second act, the 3,000 audience members were briefly released. Yet before they could regain their senses, the entire plot of the first act quickly started replaying in everyone's minds. There are still 12 days. After 12 days, I will no longer be a free me, but a caged bird flying within an unfamiliar prison. That's Agatha, the barmaid at the Dock Tavern, the dream of all men in Ankara. Mr. Elijah, if you want to tour Ankara, you'll probably need a local to be your guide. Until the moment the male and female leads conversed at the tavern, 12 Days Journey continued to follow the original plot. But suddenly, a flamboyantly dressed peacock man barged into everyone's sight, causing a drastic shift in the style of 12 Days Journey. This isn't right. If you truly love a rose, then let her bloom in the garden. If making my rose smile is possible, then being laughed at by everyone is worth it. Grandmother has also been very ill lately. The old lady wishes for me to marry soon. Young Master Joseph, your grandmother, spanked someone until their butt was bruised. With every unexpected move from Mr. Joseph, the souls of the audience of over 3,000 began to tremble slightly. The will that was originally entirely focused on the center stage now bore a large patch of bright yellow, the same color as the yellow hair on Mr. Joseph's head. 2.5%. It actually deviated by so much in one breath. Watching the 3,000 audience members faint and lose consciousness in the theater, feeling their souls' real reactions to witnessing the first act of 12 Days' Journey, feeding back to the dramatic world, the Master Wilde on stage couldn't help but take a deep breath, realizing that things seemed to be spiraling out of his control. Although the creator of the dramatic world was himself, the true foundation supporting the existence of that illusory and beautiful world was not just his strength alone, but the love for theater embedded within the souls of over 3,000 in the Central Cross Theater. Asterisk and that damned Mr. Joseph first messed up the genuine tavern encounter beyond recognition and then stole a large amount of screen time from the male and female protagonists, forcibly seizing a significant amount of attention from the 3,000 audience members. Asterisk critically, because these 3,000 audience members' souls' inclination represents the control over the dramatic world of 12 Days' Journey, to which over 25% now favor Mr. Joseph. They begin to anticipate his forthcoming story. Asterisk. This means that the control that could have been a perfect 100% is now reduced to 75% in his own dramatic world, and that damned Mr. Joseph has successfully seized a large portion of territory. Asterisk. Sensing imminent disaster, the drama king immediately cast his consciousness into the dramatic world, preparing to rigorously defend against Mr. Joseph. The first step was to prevent him from further disturbing the acquaintance and love between the male and female leads. As a relatively traditional romantic comedy, his 12 Days' Journey adhered to the classic 4-act structure. The first act serves as the introduction and acquaintance, the second act for the development and romance, the third act for the arrival of resistance, and the fourth act for the climactic closing resolution. In the dramatic world of 12 Days' Journey, that meant the male and female leads meeting in the tavern encounter, the budding affection during subsequent interactions in Journey through the Small Town, then to Agatha being captured, and the male protagonist having to choose between the safety of his beloved and his happiness for the rest of his life in love and freedom, and finally realizing his lover was his fiancé all along, ending joyfully in Wedding of the Caged Bird. Now the first act, the tavern encounter, had already been quite ruined by Mr. Joseph, and if he interrupts Journey through the Small Town again, leading Elijah and Agatha's feelings not reaching the point where he would give up freedom for her, the turning point of love and freedom may become love and yellow hair. Asterisk no way. That won't do. Asterisk. In the face of the determined actions of Master Wilde, outside the drama and Mr. Joseph's madness within, the second act of 12 Days' Journey, Journey through the Small Town, began to spiral out of control. Mr. Elijah, if we talk about Ankara's most beautiful scenery, it must be the beaches at night and the bonfires set up along them. Everyone. The beach has been booked by Mr. Joseph, the richest man, to host an unprecedented grand firework display for his beloved Miss Agatha. Hello there. We meet again. Mr. Elijah, besides the fireworks, no, besides the beach bonfires, there's also the Seaside Amusement Park. This dance. Everyone. The Seaside Amusement Park has been booked by Mr. Joseph for his beloved Miss Agatha, to throw the ultimate joyful masquerade. Hello there. We meet again. Or, the former residence of the great painter Amiens. Everyone has been booked, with Mr. Joseph himself as the explainer. Hello there. We meet again. Or Lulu Mountain is nice too. There. Everyone. Booked. Hello there. We meet again. Watching the small town nearly turn into Yosef Manor, the drama king, who handed Leon the tools for his schemes, couldn't hold it in anymore. Asterisk, damn it. As long as they went, you freaking booked it, right? Can't you use any means other than throwing money at it? Asterisk. Yes, he could. Love is like people in old photographs. It will fade with time. After snapping photos of everyone at the dance besides Agatha, Mr. Joseph pasted the Agatha he personally invited someone to paint beside himself in the photos, looking at her with loving eyes, and said sincerely, "Only you can remain ever beautiful, accompanying me until my life's final moment. Why do you keep clinging to me? There are clearly better ones out there." "I'm not clinging to you. I'm clinging to my love," correcting Agatha's error with a serious expression. Leon frowned and retorted, "As for anyone better, if even you don't have that person, how are they better? Before meeting you, I never thought of getting married. I never hoped for you to love me, didn't imagine you had reasons to love me, nor did I ever think I could earn your affection. To me, having the opportunity to love you already fills me with gratitude. The moment you appeared, the conclusion of my life was made. It's you." Asterisk, damn it. This scene is meant for the male and female leads to acknowledge and become familiar with each other. "What the hell are you doing?" Asterisk. Watching the dramatic world where he buys up venues everywhere, deeply gazing into Agatha's eyes, showering her with affection and sweet words, leaving Agatha's heart wavering, and noticing Elijah standing awkwardly with the art gallery tickets given by Mr. Joseph, scratching his ear and blushing, like a side character. Drama King's eyes nearly popped out of their sockets. Like a chef who prepared a national banquet-level dish but found someone dumping artificial sweetener on it. Drama King was filled with rage, wishing he could wrap the damned Mr. Joseph in batter and toss him into a fryer alongside cut potato strips. But when the second act concluded, and this dish was served to over 3,000 diners, who absurdly gave it nearly 60% positive reviews, Drama King surpassed anger altogether. The theatrical insights he inherited from countless masters of drama were shattered on the spot by Leon's overbearing "President loves you" foot. Asterisk, no. Why indeed? Asterisk. If Leon could hear the roar from the Drama King, he'd probably burst into laughter. If you had to justify it, it would undoubtedly be due to the conceptual crushing blow. No other reason, as the primary preferences of various audience groups have long been thoroughly summarized under the massive data and induction of the fast food era. Men mostly love tales of the underdog triumph, enjoying the thrill of breaking free from the ties of rules, succeeding against the odds and winning against the strong, while the core theme for the female audience was special treatment. Regardless of how anyone else was, they were special to me. Although this summary was not absolute, most ordinary people indeed bought into this. Therefore, when Leon learned that both performances today were romantic dramas and, after checking the town's population registry, confirmed that 70% of the attendees were female, the contest for control over the theatrical world was already a foregone conclusion. The mature formulas from the age of fast food, though generally of low nutritional value, had absolutely explosive effectiveness for first-time viewers, decisively hooking them in one go with just the right touch. The crucial point was that creating a great drama required setting up implicit hints and foreshadowing, engaging story arcs, analyzing the roles with introspective monologues, and so on. Only when all these were well executed and finally unleashed all at once in the conclusion could it deliver an exhilarating experience for the audience. However, while the Drama King was orchestrating an encounter over a cloudy night beach to have the two protagonists miss the starry sky and make a promise to watch stars together next time, Mr. Joseph had already purchased 250 truckloads of fireworks to spell out Agatha's name in the sky. As for the subtle foreshadowing, the promise to watch stars next time, come on, seriously? When Leon's 500 loyal guards ignited all 250 truckloads of fireworks that went bang in the sky, even the moon got nearly blown out of sight. Could there be any promise left? They'd agree to come back for the smell of gunpowder next time. The masquerade ball afterward, the artist's residence, Lulua Mountain Park were all in the same vein. On one hand, they were still exploring mutual understanding at a leisurely pace, while on the other side, stood there with 99,999 roses, murmuring you are the last and the most beautiful rose, and hired hundreds of high-paid professionals to cheerfully force their way forward. After pulling off this move, even if Mr. Joseph's forceful approach ultimately failed, the Drama King's plot to foster understanding and gradually connect hearts would be 1,000,000% certain to fail, even becoming a strong contrast instead. On one side was earning goodwill through endless words, progressing the plot by causing a scene, fabricating small gifts, and rerouting to avoid traffic on dates. On the other side, everything was well prepared, always ahead, releasing fireworks while roses appeared below. This side was still gingerly feeling things out, too shy to voice any affection. That side already sweet-talking, holding the deeds to the house and car, the family register in hand, embedding you in their eyes, even planning to bury you in the same little box 100 years from now. So the question was, if it were you making the decision, who would you choose? If I were Agatha, I think I would choose Mr. Joseph, accompanied by a whisper that made the eyelids of the Drama King twitch. A light pink heart-shaped bubble quietly emerged from the theatrical world, as over 3,000 souls making up the drama began shifting towards Mr. Joseph. The Drama King found his control over the theatrical world reaching a dangerously critical point. Meanwhile, Leon in the play couldn't control these souls, nor did he have the energy to bind or suppress them, and the will of the massive audience began slowly awakening. Although these wills had not yet fully regained their self-awareness, they were already ambiguously exchanging some simple thoughts. With the first bubble's appearance, it wasn't long before some stronger love bubbles began emerging, popping up rapidly to express, "Yes, yes, Mr. Joseph is so passionate. I would also choose Mr. Joseph. Although he isn't as dashing as Elijah, it's really hard to refuse him. What a pity, if only he were a bit more handsome. Yes, yes. Nonsense. Who says Mr. Joseph isn't handsome?" As many viewers unconsciously discussed Leon's looks, expressing their little regrets, a furious red bubble swelled up, bursting loudly. Do any of you have any sense of aesthetics? Mr. Joseph has an elegant face. With the appearance of the red bubble, more and more bubbles began to emerge. Yes, yes, Mr. Joseph is very handsome. It's not the conventional kind of good looks, but a unique charm. Exactly. Especially those eyes. They're so captivating. Sister, you have good taste. When Mr. Joseph knelt with roses and set off fireworks in everyone else's eyes. But in mine, there was only you. His gaze totally killed me. In fact, after you see him enough, you'll discover that Mr. Joseph doesn't have that striking look at first glance. But he really grows on you. Exactly, exactly. With the leading bubbles, new ones started bubbling up like madness. Yes, yes. Mr. Joseph is so handsome. In the bewildered expression of the Drama King, the scattered world wills, which had been dormant, began to slowly gather and gradually reached a consensus that Mr. Joseph is actually very handsome. Meanwhile, in the dramatic world, Leon, who was coaxing Agatha to meet her grandmother, inexplicably experienced a slight enhancement in his appearance, as if in agreement with the pink bubbles around him. His features remained the same, yet unknown why, he grew increasingly pleasing to the eye. His already striking eyes, as one of those bubbly voices insisted, seemed to contain a galaxy, creating a peculiar feeling of wanting to drown in them just with a glance. Wait, does the dramatic world play like this? Watching Agatha, who couldn't help but steal glances at Leon due to his explosively enhanced looks, the Master Wild outside the drama world painfully tugged at his hair, reaching the verge of madness. This isn't drama. This isn't drama at all. This kind of nonsensical stuff is a desecration of great drama. Why do so many people love to watch this? Looking at the pink bubbles heckling from above the dramatic world, who cheered as the male lead and female lead. No, the male supporting role and the female lead hugged for the first time, and began to uncontrollably scream when the female lead entered the bathroom and saw Mr. Joseph with his wet upper body. The drama king felt the world spin. No, no way. Absolutely not. If this continues, I'll end up becoming like him. Staring at the words appearing on his white suit, witnessing the storyline being drastically altered, meeting the dramatic world's will. Drama King revealed an expression of terror. And when his arm opened like a book page, revealing the drama script of 12 Days Journey, the marking of Mr. Joseph as male supporting role clown number 1 in the character column started to uncontrollably blur, transforming toward male lead number 1. Drama King finally couldn't bear it anymore, shivering as he grabbed the fine threads controlling the puppet's soul, frantically attempting to pull the plot back. It was impossible to completely kick Mr. Joseph out now, but at least the ending should be the same. He had to preserve some of the original material as much as possible. There had to at least be a wedding. The female lead also had to marry Elijah. At most, he could only be the second male lead. Otherwise, you are not suitable. Under the bewildered gaze of the bubbles, Mr. Joseph's once kind and gentle grandmother turned dark at the mention of her grandson intending to marry a tavern waitress, and said sternly and uncompromisingly, Joseph's future wife should either be the daughter of Duke Hyzen, a princess of the kingdom of Lutung, or at least a relative of the lower house's prime minister. Marrying you is absolutely impossible. No, I won't marry anyone but her. Facing his grandmother's pressure, Leon, firmly maintaining his lovesick and domineering character, immediately rejected unwaveringly. All these years, I never knew what I wanted until I met Agatha, and only then did my boring life finally have brightness. So no matter how you object, I am determined to. Ahem. Ahem. Asterisk, really? Are you playing this trick too? Asterisk. In Leon's somewhat dazed gaze, his previously vibrant and robust grandmother suddenly turned pale, pulled out a snow-white handkerchief, and began coughing violently. After a fit of heart-wrenching coughing, the frail-looking grandmother put away the blood-stained handkerchief, without mentioning her condition, stubbornly biting her lip and saying, In any case, no. As long as I am here, it is not happening. In this manner it is either her or me. Take your pick. Suddenly falling gravely ill in 1 second. Huh? Stunned by the sudden heap of melodrama, Leon couldn't help but say with a dark expression, Then I will leave. Since this manor. Ahem. Ahem. Since this manor cannot accommodate Agatha. Ahem. Ahem. Loudly. If it cannot accommodate Agatha, then I might as well. Cough, cough, cough. Very loudly. I'll leave then. Cough, 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 cough. Violently coughing.
No.
There is no need. As the grandmother coughed blood furiously into her handkerchief, Agatha, who was already in tears, abruptly tore off the necklace Leon had given her, shoved it into his hand, turned her head, and firmly said through gritted teeth, Mr. Joseph, I have my pride. If I keep being with you, I'll not only ruin your family but also become a prisoner of your love. You are wonderful, but this isn't the life I want. Goodbye. No, never see you again. Wait. Leon turned, trying to catch her, but with Drama King's reinforcement, Agatha, who was depicted as frail and weak, bolted with a sprinter's speed, darting out of the room. Meanwhile, the grandmother, already coughing a once white handkerchief into a red one, miraculously displayed the terrifying strength comparable to a demon's muscle power, her frail hand gripping his like an iron clamp, impossible to shake off. Caught off guard, Leon could only watch as the princess playing Agatha, leaving afterimages from her high-speed departure, raced out of the manor, heading straight through the pouring rain toward the beach, to a place where mysterious robbers awaited, ready to kidnap her into marriage. Asterisk not. Are you really forcing this narrative? Does the plot logic matter anymore? Asterisk. Woo woo woo. It's indeed tragic. With Leon temporarily offline after being ambushed, witnessing the drastic turn, or rather steep decline of the story in the dramatic world, the previously pink bubbles suddenly became shrouded in gloom. As Leon was locked up by his grandmother and Agatha went to the beach to watch the stars in the rain and got caught, the pure-hearted second male, Elijah, chose to sacrifice his freedom to return home and marry to save the goddess of his heart. Each bubble began to sniffle. Wow! The grandmother is truly wicked, not letting lovers be together. On one side, there's the lover, on the other, the grandmother. Mr. Joseph had no choice. Yeah, but Mr. Elijah is pretty admirable. Yeah, for someone who loves freedom as much as he does, he's willing to return for an arranged family marriage to save Agatha and live the rest of his life as the very caged bird he detests. Thinking like that, Mr. Elijah seems all right too. At least he's good-looking and gentle. Is this what a reversal finally looks like? Seeing a lot of bubbles vaguely drifting back, Drama King, whose hasty plot amends left him trembling with distaste, couldn't help but be overjoyed. On his face, paler than his white suit, a blush of excitement suddenly appeared. Yes, precisely this. You dim-witted audience finally figured it out. The damned Mr. Joseph is just a clown. Elijah is the one and only male. Elijah, the homewrecker. Amid a roar, the red bubble that previously supported Leon's appeal emerged once more, brimming with anger as it roared. Despicable, taking advantage of others' plight, ruining the relationship between Mr. Joseph and Agatha. Led by its outburst, a horde of Joseph fans erupted too. Bubbles tinged with red and pink started blubbering. Sisters, stay resolute. Don't forget Mr. Joseph is the protagonist. Are you gonna flip-flop when Joseph is at home battling his grandmother? Elijah only lost his future freedom, but Mr. Joseph lost his love. Woo woo woo. I feel for my Mr. Joseph. Get her back. Go snatch Agatha back. No, not again. No! In the terrified gaze of Drama King, large swaths of bubbles that had shifted toward his direction abruptly switched sides again, beginning to rally behind Mr. Joseph. With a shout from the red bubble, nearly 75% of the red bubbles started bubbling up again, then raised their rather abstract little pudgy hands, shaking and jeering. Wedding heist! Wedding heist! Wedding heist! Wedding heist! Although the creator of the drama world was the Drama King, the more than 3,000 souls that composed the drama world were truly the rulers. Therefore, when over 70% of the rulers had chosen their side and began to cheer for Mr. Joseph, no matter how desperately the Drama King struggled, the direction of 12 Days' Journey inevitably experienced a tremendous change. Agatha, you looked absolutely beautiful today. Looking at her daughter, wearing a custom-made white wedding dress and sitting with her head slightly lowered in front of the vanity mirror, the graceful and noble middle-aged lady beside Agatha couldn't help but sincerely praise her. You've always been so pretty since you were a child, and now wearing this wedding dress, you look just like a princess straight out of a fairy tale. I doubt there's anyone in the entire kingdom more beautiful than you. The middle-aged lady's compliment might have stemmed more from her bias towards her own daughter, but even if one scrutinized it, her praise would not seem excessive. Compared to the lively and energetic waitress at the Dock Tavern, as if she had endless vitality, Agatha, in her pure white wedding dress, was truly a sight one couldn't look away from. For other women, such a bright white wedding dress might dull their skin, requiring whitening powders to manage. However, on her it was the perfect complement. The small patches of exposed skin at the elbows and neckline of the wedding dress appeared smooth and fair, like a piece of beautiful jade peeking through the veil of white, subtly exuding a visible luster and softness. The tailored, form-fitting white fabric outlined her unforgettable beautiful figure in voluptuous yet graceful curves. Along with the light makeup that enhanced her already stunning features, she truly resembled a blooming white rose. Within its noble and pure color, there lurked a fragrance so intoxicating it drew one in unconsciously. The only regret was that this mesmerizing white rose was not in full bloom at the moment. Those once bright and expressive eyes seemed slightly dull, perhaps due to the absence of someone's reflection. "Mother!" Gently biting her lips, which were lightly colored with pale pink lip gloss, Agatha asked softly with a look of confusion in her eyes, "I remember you once told me when I was little that you chose father among many suitors not because his family background was the best or his potential the most outstanding, but because of love. Since you made such a choice back then, even risking falling out with grandfather to marry father, why are you interfering with my marriage now, forcing me to marry someone I don't love?" "I sigh. Precisely because I've experienced all of this. I don't want you to suffer the same hardships I did." Upon hearing Agatha's question, the middle-aged lady sighed, then reached out to embrace her confused daughter, speaking softly with a complex expression. "Marrying for love is fine, but how long will your love last? 5 years? 7 years? 10 years? While this time might be long compared to a lifetime, it's still too short. Even the most wonderful love is merely fireworks. When the initial passion fades, and you both grow old, youth no longer on your side, a fading love can't sustain a family. Your father and I have shared many beautiful moments, but over time, the issues concealed by love, differences in beliefs, family, social circles, geography, were exposed one by one, leading to endless arguments and, well, today is your big day. Let's not talk about this." Shaking her head slightly, the middle-aged lady paused and gently grasped her daughter's shoulders. Looking into her confused eyes with a soft voice, "Agatha, mother won't harm you. If you truly can't accept or understand these words, just choose to trust mother for now and let time give you the answer. Okay." "Okay. I'll think about it some more." "All right then, you think it over." Looking at her still stubborn daughter, the middle-aged lady couldn't help but shake her head, then stood up, holding her arm, speaking with a mix of tenderness and firmness. "But no matter what you think, since we're here now, the wedding must go on. Dear daughter, the husband your father and I chose for you is the second son of a great noble family from another county. Although he doesn't have the right to inherit a title, his life will surely be affluent and secure. Your father and I have carefully investigated. Not only is he handsome and reliable, we've also heard he has no bad habits. Moreover, like you, he is fond of astronomy and art, skilled in painting and composing with a deep interest in celestial phenomena. You two will certainly get along well." "Perhaps." Upon hearing her mother's words, Agatha couldn't help but purse her lips. Had this been 12 days ago, the marriage partner her mother picked for her would have indeed suited her taste, even matching her hobby of stargazing. But now, looking down at the finely scattered diamonds on her veil like tiny stars, Agatha's mind wasn't filled with the enchanting starry night over the Ankara beach. Instead, she remembered a figure walking toward her amid fireworks, with a reflection of a galaxy in their eyes. Mother, even if fireworks are truly fleeting, in the moment they appear in the sky, they shine brighter than all the stars combined. After witnessing such extraordinary fireworks, my eyes can no longer hold any other light. Understanding what she truly wanted, Agatha bit her lip and glanced outside the dressing room. 2 burly men, taller than the doorframe, stood guard without moving an inch. They didn't relax their watch over the door, not even during her conversation with her mother. How could I escape from here? Looking at the 2 guards, so muscular they looked like bears, and recalling her several failed escape attempts, Agatha gritted her teeth in frustration. But she really had no way to deal with these 2 bears and had to pin her last hope on her beloved. "Mr.
Lion.
You have to find out and come here. Otherwise, I'll be forced to marry." "Huh? Who is Mr. Lion?" "Agatha, we should go." As the princess playing Agatha was bewildered by this sudden name, the middle-aged lady glanced at the clock in the dressing room and stood up, linking arms with her daughter, smiling. "Come on. I can hear the ceremony master calling your name. Agatha, today, you will surely be the most beautiful bride in the entire kingdom." "Agatha?" When Elijah, dressed in a formal gown, saw the bride brought out by a middle-aged noblewoman and standing on the wedding platform. He couldn't help but be overjoyed. Earlier, he had been unable to sleep and had gotten up intending to go to the beach to watch the stars. Unexpectedly, he saw Agatha being kidnapped. In order to save the girl he deeply loved, even though she didn't love him, he rushed back home overnight, agreeing to a family-arranged marriage in exchange for help in finding Agatha's whereabouts. What he didn't anticipate was that the marriage partner arranged by his family turned out to be Miss Agatha. This must be destiny's arrangement. Miss Agatha. In Agatha's equally surprised gaze, Elijah, also dressed in a white gown, couldn't resist taking 2 steps toward her. Then, with excitement he could hardly contain, he spoke in a voice filled with emotion amid the astonished expressions of the guests. I didn't expect it to be. Anyway, it is fate that brought us to Ankara, that led us to know each other and travel together. And now, it's fate again that allows us to meet here. I'm sorry I'm late. A man's voice, although polite in content, was not so polite in tone. As the hall door, which had been closed after all the guests arrived, slowly opened, a man in a jet-black suit strode in, surrounded by a dozen guards. The man seemed to have hurried on the way, as his breath was slightly unsteady. However, his steps were still composed and powerful, and his attire was immaculate. Apart from a bright yellow tuft of hair, his whole aura was striking and eye-catching, like a lion patrolling its territory. At the moment when this young lion stepped into the hall, his eyes, like 2 black stars, fell unblinkingly on the beautiful bride in white on the wedding platform. Mr. Joseph! Mr. Joseph! Amid the bride and groom's simultaneous but emotionally contrasting exclamations, the man who seemed to be at the center of the whole world walked up the platform directly, under the astonished gaze of all the guests, and headed toward the bride. He's here. No, Mr. Joseph is here. He's really here. Looking at her lover, who was striding resolutely toward her. The princess. No, Agatha felt a bitterness in her elegant nose, and the whole world before her eyes shimmered with tears. In that shimmering light of joyful tears, the man who had eyes only for her reached the 2 of them, extended a hand toward the bewildered noblewoman, and spoke in a steady, powerful, and politely undeniable voice. Auntie, you should hand Agatha over to me. To break into someone else's wedding with guards, and then walk up to the bride's mother and demand, as if it were natural, for her to hand over her daughter, faced with such presumptuous, if not outright audacious, demands, the middle-aged noblewoman's mind went blank. According to her thoughts at this moment, she should have immediately flown into a rage, burst out on the spot, and called for the guards to expel this arrogant and madman of a man. But looking into those eyes that seemed to hold a galaxy and listening to that tone as natural as saying the sun must rise and the sea must flow, the middle-aged noblewoman's hand grasping Agatha's arm trembled involuntarily and slowly loosened bit by bit. With incredibly skilled acting and an unprecedented character in the history of drama, your false role, Mr. Joseph in Pursuit of Love, managed to win the approval of 90% of the audience and the enthusiastic support of 70% over the 2 major acts and 1 minor act for a total of 11 scenes. Having met the advancement criteria, your silver-level badge elite performer successfully advanced to the golden badge master performer. Master performer. When you have solid accumulations, you can be called a performer. When you have superb skills, you can be considered an elite performer. But beyond that, if you still have passion and love for the performing arts, then you become an elite among performers, and that is where most people's journey ends. To become a master, merely having deep accumulation, exquisite skills, and endless love is far from enough. You must, on the foundation of these 3, possess a deep understanding of human nature, have the ability to establish emotional resonance with the audience, and show your unique style and artistic pursuit in reinventing traditional works to be called a master performer. Wearing effect, your accumulation, your skills, your love, your understanding of human nature, your resonance with the audience, and your innovation and pursuit of artistic style have already put you among the masters. Therefore, when you intentionally perform, you possess unparalleled powerful appeal. The more unfamiliar your appearance, voice, and demeanor are to the audience, the easier it is for them to believe your performance. If they are unfamiliar enough, they might even believe you are the character you are portraying in the absence of obvious flaws. Advancement route. When you succeed in fooling the perceptions of 100,000 people with your superb acting skills, making them believe you are the character you portray, this badge will automatically advance to the heterochromatic badge Person of 1,000 Faces. Current progress 0/100000. Hidden traits. No need to wear as a master performer who rose from portraying a domineering CEO. You retain the distinct and dazzling charisma of Mr. Joseph. With this special charisma, if you lower your demands for a target of lower identity and status, unless their will is firm, they will unconsciously yield and instinctively follow your instructions. This trait has additional effects on a target of the opposite gender. This effect, even fictional characters in the world of drama are influenced. Incredible. Truly worthy of a gold-level badge. Looking at the trembling hand of Agatha's mother as she handed her over, and at the master performer glowing gold in his slot, Leon's face remained deeply affectionate and focused, but inside, he was bursting with joy. This theater trip was absolutely worth it. Originally, his elite performer didn't know how to continue advancing, but after accompanying the princess to watch, acting out a few acts, elite performer leaped directly to the gold level, becoming his 4th gold-level badge after Martyr of the Wine Country. I am the demon, and Prince of Lutung. While Leon rejoiced in his heart at the rich rewards of his trip, looking at Mr. Joseph, who dared to break into a wedding to openly take her away, Agatha's eyes reddened, and she broke free from the noblewoman's hand, dove into her lover's arms like a fledgling returning home, and said in a slightly choked voice, "You love me so much, Leon. I'll marry you tomorrow, then we'll never part. Okay?" "Okay." Leon nodded in response, gently caressing his beloved's swan-like elegant back, and answered tenderly, "I will definitely." "Huh? What did you just call me?" "Ah?" Upon hearing Leon's somewhat startled inquiry, Agatha, nestled in his embrace, shivered slightly, then buried her head into his chest with a sudden thrust. With reddened ears and a face full of embarrassment, she tenderly said, "Darling." I asked for the meaning of that question, not for you to start calling me that. I wanted to know why you're using my real name. And just as Leon was thunderstruck by Agatha, or perhaps the princess's response, standing there totally bewildered and unsure whether to let go or to bravely continue with the act, over 2,000 fan bubbles from the theatrical world above had started screaming madly, thrilled by the sugary romance of this sudden couple. I can't take it anymore. So sweet. This sugar level is illegal. I'm going to be sweetened to death. Mary. Don't wait till tomorrow, marry right now. This is so sweet. I have to twist around. I'm twisting crazily. I'm gonna roll. Changing to darling instantly. I'm done. Everything's ruined. Just ruined. Seeing the waves of pink bubbles above the theatrical world desperately swirling like the sea, the master of drama on the real-world stage went weak-kneed and plopped onto the floor, his eyes filled with hopeless grayness. Clearly I'm the master of drama. I'm supposed to be the creator of this script. And these damned audiences, do they have any sense of drama appreciation at all? The play's been altered beyond recognition, with no setup beforehand whatsoever, and then suddenly they're crashing a wedding. Don't you find it abrupt? Also, the protagonist's mom, who was characterized as a loving but stern elder, just handed her daughter over after being asked a question? Doesn't that feel awkward to you? And most importantly, where's Elijah, the second male lead? He just expressed his deep affection halfway, but hasn't spoken up until now, as if it was someone else's fiancé being snatched, just standing stiffly with the groom's relatives on stage, And you don't think the second male lead's performance is... Oh wait. Asterisk. Asterisk Elijah was the protagonist I designed. That Joseph guy was the second male lead. No, not even the second. He was merely a supporting character meant to highlight the protagonist's bravery and wisdom, who should have disappeared after the tavern scene of the first act. Asterisk. Realizing his perception suffered a strange imbalance, even mistaking the protagonist's identity. The drama king couldn't help but tremble as he raised his arm and gazed at the script of 12 Days' Journey on his arm. Under his desperate gaze, the script of 12 Days' Journey slowly flipped open with Elijah, initially penned in as the protagonist, having vanished without a trace at some point, replaced by a name that made him grit his teeth. Main character, Mr. Joseph. Description. On the surface, a frivolous youth from the small town of Ankara, fond of wearing such opulent and peculiar attire, wandering about. Yet behind the scenes, he is the holder of the kingdom's largest chamber of commerce, an heir to great nobility. His seemingly carefree, comical exterior is merely a guise for his true self. When the heroine Agatha connects deeply with him and gradually understands his painful, struggling inner world, she slowly discovers his genuine, passionate nature. Asterisk, he struggles for nothing. He has no inner world. This bastard, at most, has a genuine and passionate basket. Asterisk. Seeing the forcibly altered, terribly disfigured background, the drama king couldn't help but be consumed by fiery rage. After issuing a few indecent curses without any master's demeanor, he suddenly fainted to the ground amid a swirl of dizziness and noise. And at this critical moment, among those hysterically wild pink bubbles above, a certain red bubble, which successfully led several times at key moments, stood out once more. With two tiny legs wobbling, it climbed to the highest point, directly raising its arm and shouting, "Sisters, is Mr. Joseph handsome? Handsome. Is the new plot good? Good. Comparing with Master Wilde's original work, isn't the new version better? Yes. If you had to choose between Master Wilde and Mr. Joseph, would you pick Mr. Joseph, right? Yes. Well, that settles it." Standing on the high platform built by a crowd of bubbles, looking at the densely packed supporters below, and a few opponents who, despite resisting, were outnumbered and already caught and locked up, the bright red bubble let out a sinister laugh, then proudly threw back its head and howled to the sky, "Come on, let us knock down that incompetent Master Wilde, and let the most handsome Mr. Joseph be the ruler of the theatrical world henceforth." Seeing the drama king glaring down at him with eyes filled with fury, the red bubble shivered all over, then toppled directly off the platform, instinctively trying to dive into the pile of bubbles. Unfortunately, although most bubbles look similar, others were mostly light pink. Only this one, as the head of Joseph's fan club, was thoroughly red. So although it managed to burrow into the bubble pile successfully, the next second, it was snatched out by the drama king. And as it entered the drama king's palm, the big red bubble twisted slightly before it uncontrollably began to expand quickly, then gradually revealed its true form, a grinning goat head. Drama king. Cao Min Cao. Black goat. Asterisk asterisk. Seeing the roasted sheep's head that Mr. Joseph once took away and then disappeared into thin air, never to appear again, the drama king shook with rage. Asterisk, I wondered why every critical moment you stand up and lead people astray. So you're a damned instigator. Asterisk. Well, master, we can explain. Relying on its ability to sense anger, feeling the ocean of fury in the drama king's soul that could roast it alive to jerky, the black goat couldn't help but swallow a bit, sheepishly explaining. I really didn't want to do this job, but Leon, that scoundrel playing Mr. Joseph, he insisted that having officials guide, control the fan base, and steer the direction of public opinion is the basic community operation one must immediately do after airing a new age drama. I don't even know what he meant, but I'm just a poor demon working for him, never getting any souls, just hoping he'd shell out some cash to buy a bit of smoke to whet my appetite, so I can only do whatever he says. Oh, hey. So it really wasn't targeting you. Master, I've also watched your play, like that sculptor's wife who cheats with her apprentice. It's really intense, made me fiery with excitement, so I'm actually your fan. Can't you just consider me a fart and let it go? Help! Leon. Help! Someone's killing a goat. Finally, it was over. Holding the princess, who he wasn't sure whether she was drunk or awake, Leon acted out a, "I'm taking her away today. Let's see who dares to stop me," wedding robbery scene. After returning to the small town of Ankara and falling asleep embraced in temporarily transplanted roses, having successfully completed the 4-act plot, Leon finally escaped from the distorted version of 12 Days' Journey. His soul had just returned to his body from the theater world. Before he could check on the princess and the other audience members, he heard a shrill scream from the central stage of the theater. "It hurts like hell. Help, Leon. Hurry and save me. Don't worry, you're safe now." After carrying the still unconscious princess out through the exit passage and placing her in a seat at the back of the theater, Leon quickly emerged from the back row and glanced over in the direction of the stage in response to the cries. On the stage at that moment, apart from the actors who lay fainted in various positions, there remained only one person and one goat fighting. The situation was roughly as Leon had previously speculated. Although the black goat seemed to be on the receiving end, it was not in any real danger, save for a few bite marks on its face. As for how he knew the black goat was not in danger, that was a matter of arithmetic. As his anomalous object, the black goat's maximum output power was limited by his own contamination value. Even though the goat itself had an 8-point contamination value level, Leon's current contamination value was only 4.7, so it could only perform at a 4.7 level. The Drama King, at full strength, had a contamination value as high as 16, almost twice the power of the goat. But when 75% of the audience in the theater world sided with Leon, the Drama King, who was one with the theater world, was also severely weakened, able to exert only about 25% of its original power. With 16 by 0.25, it retained merely a pitiful quarter of a goat's power, totaling 4 points in level, which was even weaker than the black goat's 4.7. Furthermore, lacking any soul attack capabilities equated to having no weapon at all, it could only pummel the black goat barehanded. So the fight between these two looked intense but was in reality like two patients without the strength to swing at each other with shoelaces from a pair of sneakers. Even after an entire day of hitting, it would amount to just a momentary pain, nowhere near causing mutual destruction. Simply put, you two should just stop already. This kind of fighting can't kill anyone. It's you. It's all because of you. Seeing Leon was out of the theater world, the Drama King finally found its target and immediately abandoned the assault on the black goat, leaping off the stage, charged at Leon like a bull seeing red, then was pinned firmly to the ground by a hand of will formed by the Holy Spirit pendant. Master Wild, or should I say the out-of-control Drama King, your performance has come to an end. Like a law enforcement officer catching a runaway criminal, Leon righteously declared the arrest of the Drama King. He then summoned the black goat, using its soul vision to quickly assess the soul state of the over 3,000 members of the Central Cross Theater's audience. Very good. Apart from a few unlucky ones who hit their heads on seat armrests during soul ejection, no one was injured in this anomalous object's out-of-control incident, making it a perfectly resolved case. Satisfied, Leon nodded before asking Young Ha for a piece of rope to bind the still struggling Drama King and stuffed an old handkerchief into its mouth. Then, utilizing the power of the Holy Spirit pendant, he dragged it towards the back row of the theater. Huh? Did I fall asleep? Awakened by Leon, the princess, gradually synchronizing her soul with her body, sat up holding her forehead. Suddenly, she furrowed her brow, vaguely recalling what happened before she fell asleep, and urgently asked, Leon, did something happen while I was unconscious? Master Wild, well, you've captured him already? So, you don't have memories from the theater world? Seeing the princess looking incredulously at Master Wild, tied up like a dumpling, Leon couldn't help but let out a small sigh of relief. Thankfully, in order to take down the Drama King, he had done many embarrassing things in the theater world. If anyone remembered those, it would be a massive blot on his history. It was much better that they were all forgotten. Asterisk. As for how Agatha at the wedding could call out his real name, at that point, the Drama King had lost over 70% of its power and probably couldn't maintain the stability of the theater world, resulting in some breaches. The princess not only knew about anomalous objects, but had also personally experienced several abnormal attack incidents and presumably had some contamination value herself. So her awakening under the theater world's failure wasn't completely inexplicable. Don't worry. This time's anomalous object out-of-control incident has been perfectly resolved. After helping the princess, whose soul was still struggling to seamlessly control her body, Leon explained. The real Master Wild passed away 3 years ago. The master you saw was actually just an anomalous object that replaced his soul and continued controlling his body after his departure up till now. As for earlier, this object, already on the verge of losing control, was provoked by the theater critic in the front row, pulling everyone in the theater into the theater world, and so I found ways to exploit loopholes and break its control over the theater world. Giving a rough explanation of what had happened, intentionally leaving out the details of events in the theater world, Leon spoke to the princess, whose expression was one of sudden realization. Princess Veronica, the Purification Bureau's large-scale memory modification should have started taking effect gradually. Once these audience members wake up, their related memories will also be rationalized. However, there are still 2 small favors I need your help with. The princess shook her head at his words, slightly pouting her lips in displeasure. You don't have to say these things, Leon. Whatever you need, just tell me directly. Also, please don't call me princess anymore. All right? Okay then. After a brief hesitation, Leon nodded and said, the people in the theater need about an hour or 2 to wake up. Before that, could you have someone look after them to prevent any injuries in case of chaos later? That's the first thing. As for the second thing, Veronica, I hope to borrow your carriage and driver to quickly get me and this Master Wild back to the Virgin Branch. No problem. Hearing Leon finally call her by her name again, the princess couldn't help but curve her lips in satisfaction and then said, I'll get someone to look after the audience. As for the carriage we came in, it should be right outside now, you can go straight to it. Then I'll be off first. Seeing that the princess didn't seem to have any intention of leaving together, Leon, who was occupied with official duties, was in a hurry to return to the bureau. Without further ado, he simply bade farewell and left in a hurry. After seeing Leon off to the theater door and smiling as she watched him leave in the carriage, the previously calm Princess Veronica suddenly let out a long sigh, then pressed her hand to her wildly thumping heart. Asterisk, this scoundrel. Even though there was no information about any romantic experiences, how could he say so many sickeningly sweet things? He must carry a lot of flirtatious thoughts in his heart. Asterisk. Watching the carriage swiftly carrying Leon away, the princess fiercely bit her lip, then gently touched her flushed cheek with the back of her hand. With her heart pounding like a drum, she sighed helplessly. Asterisk, honestly, how is anyone supposed to deal with this? Asterisk. Just like you. After reading the Central Cross Theater anomalous cleaning incident report on the table, the red-haired director couldn't help but smile with satisfaction. He looked at Leon with full approval and said, I've been away for just over 2 days, and not only did you catch Aquarius Director's leftover tricks in the capital city, but you also resolved an out-of-control anomalous object while watching a show. Well done. Haha. The year has just started, and you've already solved so many problems. This is definitely a good omen. It looks like our bureau's performance this year will be soaring. Soaring? I hope so. Hearing this less than perfectly positive phrase, Leon's mouth twitched slightly. He then took the initiative to change the subject, asking, By the way, Director, how did your meeting go these past 2 days? Has the Central Bureau decided how to deal with the Aquarius Director? I suppose they have decided. Hearing this, the red-haired director couldn't help but pout slightly, then said with some frustration, after a discussion among the 3 directors, they decided to use 2 numbered anomalous objects against him, namely, number 017, Directive List, and number 049, Netherworld Streetlight. The first one is a paper list, and once someone's name is written on it, the list will be sent to him. The person instructed must then act according to the behavior written on the list at a specified time and location. The latter is a street lamp that connects to the realm of the dead. As long as someone stands under its light and is illuminated all night, when the sun rises and the streetlight goes out, no matter how long they still have to live, their soul will be forcibly stripped away and sent to the realm of the dead. Man, that sure is a sneaky tactic. After hearing the red-haired director's words, Leon pondered briefly and quickly understood the director's plan. Given the effects of these two anomalous objects, they likely planned to write Aquarius Director's name on the directive list first, and then require him to go at a specified time to be illuminated by the Netherworld streetlight, directly sending him off in one swift move to that so-called realm of the dead. Isn't that a good thing? Seeing the red-haired director's obvious displeasure, Leon couldn't help but ask. If the three directors have decided to do this, surely they believe these two anomalous objects can thoroughly get rid of Aquarius Director. Wouldn't it be great to just eliminate him this way? If we could really just eliminate Aquarius Director like that, then I wouldn't be so troubled. Sit down. He gestured towards the sofa in the office, indicating for Leon to sit, then took a swig from a bottle on the table. Rubbing his temples, he said with some helplessness, "Combining 017 and 049 is truly terrifying, especially with the directive list being activated by the combined force of all three directors. It could normally compel a dozen true gods to collectively surrender. Even the Bureau's strongest, Ares Director, couldn't withstand it and would have to obediently wait for death under the Netherworld streetlight. But when it comes to dealing with Aquarius Director, I just don't feel assured. His power isn't particularly strong, not even as strong as some directors of Zodiac. But over the decades, who knows how many anomalous objects he's created. He has too many random and bizarre methods, always leaving one feeling unsettled." At this point, the red-haired director took another swig of his drink, furrowing his brows as he spoke to Leon. The combination of 017 and 049 is a frequently used set of anomalous objects, so Aquarius Director surely knows about them. Moreover, the directive list, being an instruction-type anomalous object, has to be delivered to his hands and complete the issuance process before it can take effect. So, if he prepares in advance, like during the inquiry, creating some targeted anomalous objects such as something like absolutely can't receive mail, can't see the contents of the mail, or doesn't recognize words, and whatnot, even if the directive list manages to act on him forcibly, its effectiveness would be greatly diminished. It may not completely eliminate him. Could it really go down like this? After hearing the red-haired director's concerns, Leon pondered for a moment and then nodded in agreement. Indeed, Aquarius Director has too many tricks, and he's prepared for many years to ascend to the Watcher's Palace. No one knows what trump cards he's still holding. By the way, Director, if you don't mind, could you? I understand what you're trying to say, but that's not a viable option. Seeing Leon's hesitant expression, the red-haired director's eyes darkened slightly, and he shook his head, saying, "You want me to go upstairs, open the 12 ant nests, then find the ant corresponding to Aquarius Director among those that correspond to all humans, and directly squish it to kill him, right? Frankly, I've considered that too. However, although I'm the holder of 12 ant nests, I don't have the authority to use it alone. Only with the approval of the directors can I open 12 ant nests. And even with permission, to directly kill Aquarius Director with this item requires twice his strength to suppress the resistance of the ant representing him for a stable kill. I can't do that alone. So, we can only gamble that Aquarius doesn't have a backup plan and will obediently walk into the trap under the power of the directive list? Alright, though the Central Bureau's plan might not be foolproof, you shouldn't dwell too much on this matter." Seeing Leon's furrowed brow, the red-haired director comforted him, saying, "The most dangerous time for the Aquarius Director was when the Central Bureau didn't know he planned to take the Watcher's Palace. Now that the Central Bureau is aware of his goal, there's no way he can succeed. At present, the Central Bureau's vigilance has been raised to the highest level. In the 6 months before the ascension, Taurus His Excellency definitely won't leave the Central Bureau. The other 2 directors will also stay, fully employing the Central Bureau's anomalous shielding capabilities. In such conditions, even if Aquarius director were 10 times stronger, he still couldn't ascend to the Central Bureau. And as long as he doesn't meet Taurus His Excellency, he naturally can't replace Taurus as the ascending one. At this point, the red-haired director sighed, saying, "To be honest, reflecting on it now, the director's choice is actually correct. For the Central Bureau and all of humanity, what's truly important is not dealing with Aquarius director, but ensuring the safe operation of the Watcher's Palace. So rather than taking the risk of being ambushed or entrapped, trying to capture Aquarius director globally, it's much more prudent for the 3 to secure the Central Bureau, then deal with him after Taurus His Excellency safely ascends. It's only half a year after all. As long as you don't give Aquarius director the chance to act in these 6 months, let Taurus His Excellency steadily ascend to the Watcher's Palace. There will be plenty of time to deal with him afterward." That's how it goes, but for some reason, this cautious decision by the Bureau feels just as unreliable as when you said our division's performance would be soaring this year. Don't fret. You've already done everything you could in the best possible way. After noticing Leon's furrowed brow, the red-haired director couldn't help but offer comfort. If you look on the bright side, even if Aquarius has some targeted anomalous object, if its hierarchy isn't high enough, it might not withstand the dual assault of the Directive List and Netherworld Streetlight. It might even get destroyed. Moreover, each Subbureau director has the backing of their corresponding star palace within their jurisdiction, which enhances their ability to a higher level. If it comes to a real confrontation, Aquarius, who had already been stripped of his star palace privileges and severely wounded, is not even a match for many ordinary Subbureau directors and can't make much of a splash. As long as the 3 directors are free in half a year, or if another director or even a superintendent returns early, no matter how many tricks he has hidden, he'll have no way out then. Sigh. That's all we can do for now. Although he still felt uneasy at heart, hoping the Purification Bureau could take action immediately and catch both the Gemini Subbureau and the Aquarius director in one fell swoop. Since the 3 directors had made a conservative decision, Leon, as just a minor level 3 incident handler, could only express compliance, adding an extra layer of caution in his mind. By the way, sensing that the atmosphere was a bit heavy, the red-haired director pondered briefly, placed 4 small boxes on the table, and then said with a smile, "Since you surprised me, I'll return the favor with a surprise. Guess what's inside?" Looking at the appearance of these small boxes, Leon excitedly asked, "Director, have you got the sheep's stomach back for me?" TSK. Seeing Leon immediately deduce the correct answer without even guessing, the red-haired director, who was planning to keep it a mystery, couldn't help but frown, then pushed the 4 small boxes over with a gesture, nodding with fake annoyance. "Yes, I've got the sheep's stomach back for you, trading it along with a couple of little things using your ghost hand under the bed. I also had Taurus His Excellency adjust this item to its best condition. Now, this thing doesn't need maintenance and is instantly at the level of 8 Leon value in your hands. Moreover, I've notified others in the Bureau, and if anybody finds other parts later, they'll try to reserve them for you first." Right? I remember the connected party badge flashed for a moment a few days ago, so that's where the supplied resources ended up. Hearing the red-haired director's words, Leon couldn't help but feel a surge of joy. Adding the sheep's stomach before him, he had already gathered the horn, heart, and stomach of the Black Goat's 7 Sheep Tavern. The sheep tail was on the female reporter, and he should be able to acquire it, bringing the tally to 4 parts. The Black Goat once boasted that the anomalous object formed by assembling all its parts could rank within the top 20 or 30 in the Purification Bureau, somewhere between numbers 020 and 030. Though the Black Goat's brag was later debunked by the director and Taurus His Excellency, according to their estimates, even with his high-affinity Devil's Badge boost, the Black Goat's strength was averaged between ranks 170, far from being in the 20 to 30 range. However, after gathering all the sheep remnants, his Devil's Badge was also expected to level up. The complete original Sin 7 Sheep Tavern, paired with the upgraded heterochromatic level Devil's Badge, might indeed contend with those top-tier anomalous objects. Thank you, Director. Soaked with joy about his imminent power surge, Leon sincerely thanked the red-haired director, took the 4 small boxes from the table, and touched them one by one. Name: insatiable stomach, corruption, greed, desire. Appearance: for locked metal boxes, each containing a compartmented reticulum, omasum, abomasum, and rumen of a ruminant. Even though not connected to any other digestive systems, the 4 stomachs perpetually undulated, whispering demonic murmurs if approached recklessly, greedily beseeching for all valuable things. Ability: demon stomach, digestive anomaly, desire guidance. Cost: propose a desire it cannot fulfill, or satisfy its desires before each use. However, be warned that once its desire is satisfied, the next burst of desire will escalate in intensity. File: parts of the stomach of a near-god-level great demon, unintentionally stumbling into a slaughterhouse while instinctively seeking flesh and soul after being badly wounded and losing consciousness, eventually bought by a man with the surname Charles, who became its possessor. Having acquired some minor fortune through insatiable stomach's desire prayer ability at the cost of much more, this owner quickly realized insatiable stomach's danger, locked it in custom-made metal boxes, and hid it away, unwilling to trade with it unless faced with unsolvable problems. Thanks to his outstanding caution and wisdom, this owner managed to ensure his safety but left insatiable stomach perpetually starving in an extremely weakened state until, to save his daughter, he delivered it to the Purification Bureau. Evaluation: an extremely peculiar functional anomalous object. Apart from guiding the user to satisfy desires, it can digest anomalous objects swallowed by the user, temporarily raising the user's corrosion value. It can raise corrosion value up to 59 points. Unfortunately, the immensely potent effect cannot be used separately. It requires synergy with Desolate Violent Tongue, capable of consuming anomalous objects. Forcibly swallowed anomalous objects cannot truly reach the insatiable stomach. Corrosion value: 8, 5.2. Your corrosion value increased. Current corrosion value: 5.2. Goodness: besides guiding the user to fulfill desires, this thing could swallow anomalous objects to temporarily increase its corrosion value. Maxing out at 59 points? Capable of reaching near-god level power in a single bound. Discovering the true effect of insatiable stomach, Leon sucked in a breath. For figures like the red-haired director and Taurus director, this thing's effect was utterly meaningless, considering their inherent corrosion value had already surpassed 60 points. They didn't need to stockpile corrosion value with a sheep's stomach. But for trash with 5.2 like himself, the effect seemed astonishingly powerful. Essentially, the effectiveness and quantity of simultaneously usable anomalous objects were closely intertwined with the user's corrosion value, and with his current 5-point corrosion value, not only couldn't he satisfy the 48-point corrosion value of the Holy Spirit pendant, he couldn't fully utilize even the 8-point corrosion value of the Black Goat. Attempting to use multiple objects at once must diminish their overall output limit. Moreover, the beauty was, he had learned incomplete Taurus secret arts from the Taurus director, which potentially could yield an abundance of anomalous objects with wasted abilities like Egg of Sharpness, perfectly suited for feeding to insatiable stomach, exchanging the least expenses for temporary near-god level might. Once he found that Desolate Violent Tongue, to gain the ability to consume anomalous objects, and stockpiled enough useless anomalous objects relying on Taurus secret arts and Aquarius secret technique, he might truly soar to new heights. Really, could not be more perfect. Holding the anticipation of gaining temporary near-god level power and teaming up with the director to beat the Aquarius director, Leon squeezed the small box in his hand, injecting his will into it. Ha! Sensing Leon's intrusion, the consciousness dormant in the small box immediately awoke. After feeling Leon's intent to contact and loosely evaluating his soul's strength, insatiable stomach, consciousness, Tisked, unabashedly voicing its disappointment. So weak, just a regular level 3 cleanser's caliber. Does the Purification Bureau's anomaly distributor have no sense? Even in decline, I was once a significant great demon. Having grudgingly grumbled, insatiable stomach, consciousness, through following Leon's intent, traced its way back, murmuring with little enthusiasm. Well, weak though he may be, having somebody use me is somewhat better than being constantly locked away. Let's take a peek at his desires. Huh. Ah. What the hell? What exactly do you want to do? Following Leon's will all the way back, after breaking into his soul and seeing that crimson storm, which even when firmly pressed down at the deepest level, was still rolling in madness. Endless stomach couldn't help but be completely dumbfounded. Asterisk how? How could such a weak soul bear such a massive desire? Back when I aspired to gather all 7 of the highest sins to become a top demon god like the supreme 4-pillar gods, the desires in my heart weren't as big as yours. Asterisk. Asterisk. So what exactly is this human planning? Is he preparing to overthrow the insanely powerful Purification Bureau and directly rule the world? Asterisk. Scared, aren't you? Just as Endless Stomach clung to Leon's soul, dumbfounded while watching the boundless greed hidden below, a somewhat familiar presence suddenly approached. Also clinging to Leon's soul, taking a deep breath of the slight pride unconsciously emanating from his soul's depths, Heart of Ambition said, with a face full of intoxication. It's truly wonderful. Even though I can look but not touch, every time I'm allowed to link to his soul, I have to come and lie down for a while. Really? There should be no one more extremely arrogant than him. Heh! Just look at the two of you being so ignorant. As the 2 sheep creatures were clinging to Leon's soul, greedily inhaling the isolated storm at the deepest level, another familiar will approached, first clinging to the edge of Leon's soul as well, eyeing the furious flames below the storm with envy, then turned slightly sideways and said arrogantly, I was the one who discovered this person and led him to take you 2 back. You 2 have what you have today thanks to my exceptional judgment. Moreover, I'm not like you 2. You 2 who came later can only cling here and inhale whatever unconsciously spills out, whereas I had truly tasted his fury when he was still weak and powerless. After boasting about its merits and seniority, the Black Goat, also known as the representative of fury, War Cornerstone, said pompously to the other 2 creatures. So now you should understand, when we wake up in the future, who should be the boss. Listen carefully, from now on, I am the head of us few. If anyone dares not listen to me, then I'll tell this kid to throw you out. This kid follows me loyally, extremely submissive. Hey, are you listening to me? Holding on to Leon's soul and greedily inhaling the scant aura spilling out, the 2 sheep creatures glanced at the Black Goat upon hearing this. Then both showed expressions full of disdain. Heh, just by relying on this storm of greed in his heart, I don't believe you can control him. It's more likely you'd be his dog. Screw you. Beat it. You all. Originally seeing a newcomer, a new sheep creature, the Black Goat was thinking about strutting its stuff as the big brother, but never expected to face cold mockery from the stomach and direct insults from the heart. Instantly burning with rage, gritting its teeth and firmly saying, You just wait. Considering you 2 are still useful, I'll let you off this time. If there's a next time, I'll make sure you pay. Heh, I'm not afraid. Do as you please. Pay you. Beat it. You all. Arg. So angry I could die. Unaware of the small theater happening within his soul among the sheep creatures and after sensing the status of Endless Stomach, Leon was about to switch to the I am the demon badge to forcibly gain control over this thing, when he heard a flattering voice from within his soul. After I was ambushed and severely injured back then, I've wandered around this world seeking a suitable master for many years, but to no avail. Today, I finally met you. Honorable Mr. Leon, if you don't mind, please let me stay by your side from now on. I'll do my utmost to offer all the assistance I can provide, and whatever you ask of me in the future, I'll do it. Please let me remain by your side. This half a liter of purines, not finding a wise master, if you do not mind, I pledge to serve as my adoptive father, to be directed at will. After hearing endless stomach-s excessively flattering words, Leon, although he gained a huge advantage, couldn't help but have his lips twitch twice. Asterisk what the hell? A fantasy world, Lu Bu. Forget it, cooperation is better than no cooperation after all. If the three sheep creatures can all cooperate, maybe during missions I could swap I am the demon out and free up a slot for another badge. Asterisk. And as Endless Stomach bowed its head, submitting to Leon's kingly aura, without any coercion, Leon, after obtaining the 8th anomalous object, heard a familiar notification sound in his ear. Acquired usable anomalous object Endless Stomach, activating the hidden trait of the heterochromatic badge, Materialist Soul, Crimson. Materialist Soul, heterochromatic, Crimson unable to upgrade. Wearing effect. Advancement route. Hidden traits. Badge slots +4. Current slot number 7. Total number of anomalous objects required to unlock the next slot 16. The number of anomalous objects required to unlock the next slot seemed to have doubled again. Looking at the new slot that appeared on the badge panel, a slight sense of joyous trouble surged in Leon's heart. With 4 iron, 3 copper, 6 silver, 4 gold, 1 heterochromatic, the total of 18 badges he had, even with the temporary swap capability, 7 slots were not very sufficient. It seemed he still needed 1 or 2 more slots. Aside from the 3 sheep creatures, the anomalous objects he had included the Lazy Witch's rental broom, Holy Spirit pendant, Anna's photo, if, the plague-infected blood band obtained from female rebels, and the mirror dog, making a total of 8. Hence, the anomalous object he created using the Taurus and Aquarius 2 Palace secret techniques, which enhances left egg sensitivity, egg of sharpness, most likely wasn't counted, so it seemed relying on self-made anomalous objects to increase slots wasn't an option. As for the reason, because materialism's core is the analysis and understanding of the world, and the anomalous objects he created couldn't aid in analyzing and understanding the world, hence couldn't be used to unlock more slots? Knock knock. Just as Leon was pondering the principle of increasing badge slots with materialism, trying to see if he could exploit a loophole, he heard a knocking on the director's office door, followed by Senior Emma's voice coming through from outside. Director, are you available now? Sure. Come in. Upon receiving the red-haired director's permission, Senior Emma pushed the door open and entered. She nodded at Leon first and then started to report. The General Bureau just sent someone over to deliver 1,111 bottles of good wine here. Claiming it's from Taurus His Excellency for Leon. Should we accept it? 1,111 bottles of good wine. Hearing Emma's words, the red-haired director felt a shiver run through her body. Then she looked at Leon with eyes filled with delight, her foxy eyes becoming sticky and sweet, so beautiful that they almost oozed nectar. Asterisk I said earlier at the headquarters, what were you discussing with Taurus His Excellency? Turns out you were asking for wine. Ahaha. Asterisk. Asterisk you did well. No wonder you're the drinking buddy I value most. My past support wasn't in vain at all. All my efforts to help you gather the sheep creatures, building connections, and thick-skinned requests haven't been for naught. You actually prepared such a big surprise for me. Asterisk. Asterisk ahaha. With our relationship, these 1,111 bottles of good wine, surely I can get 300 to 500 bottles, right? Asterisk. Dear little Leon, once again, thank you for everything you've done for the Purification Bureau and humanity. I'd like to take this opportunity to extend my warmest regards and convey a few things to you. First, I sincerely apologize. I won't be able to fulfill my previous promise of giving you the bead of the God of Brewing as expected. Originally, I had promised to lend you the bead, intending to deliver it myself, but currently, I cannot leave headquarters. Knowing Olivia, if someone else were to deliver the bead with her temperament, she would surely seize it by force. To avoid such a scenario, I had no choice but to ask the Pisces director to use the Pisces secret technique to predict how many times you would use the God of Wine bead. We pre-prepared the corresponding liquors and sent them over, hoping this arrangement pleases you. Secondly, although incomplete, you have indeed mastered the secret techniques of both the Taurus and Aquarius palaces, which certainly require a substantial amount of materials for practice. Therefore, besides the 1,111 bottles of liquor, I also sent along some anomalous materials for you to practice with, as well as a few of my notes from when I studied the Taurus secret arts which should aid in your training. Finally, I'm not going to say words like how I eagerly anticipate seeing you again in the near future. You should have already learned from Olivia about the decision made by myself and the other two directors, so the palace elevation ceremony 6 months from now has been cancelled. Our last encounter at the headquarters 2 days ago should be our final meeting. On a certain day 6 months from now, I will ascend directly from headquarters to the Watcher's Palace, where my soul will ignite a torch in the endless night, lighting the way forward for you. Best wishes, Taurus Director. P.S. After I finished this letter, the Pisces Director also reviewed your file and showed great interest in you. He believes your ability to forcibly acquire intelligence on anomalous objects closely resembles the Pisces family's abnormal observation secret technique and thus thinks you might gain the recognition of the Pisces Star Palace, qualifying you for complete training in the Pisces secret technique. Once I ascend to the palace, you can visit him. So that's how it is. After reading the letter that came with the wine, Leon suddenly understood. No wonder the promised bead turned into over 1,000 bottles of prepared wine. It turned out the Taurus Director feared the red-haired director would take drastic measures and seize it by force. Well, it seems his understanding of the director is quite spot on. Given what I know of her morals, the likelihood of her doing such a thing is not small. It can only be said that the Taurus Director understands her well, and he's such a nice person. Not only sending materials and notes but even helping me obtain the opportunity to study the Pisces secret technique. Just when Leon was marveling at the Taurus His Excellency's reliability and generosity, an inexplicable chill ran through his heart, and when he turned his head in horror, he discovered the red-haired director glaring at him with clenched teeth, grasping a letter. Director, you really don't have to look at me like that." Intimidated by the red-haired director's predatory gaze and swallowing hard, Leon forced a smile and said, "I'm just tasting the wine, only taking a small sip from each bottle. You really don't have to glare at me like that. I truly will only take a sip. The rest is yours, isn't it? All mine. If only I could actually drink it." Hearing Leon's words, the red-haired director bit her lip, her eyes suddenly reddening. She pointed to the mountainous pile of wine bottles beside her and said with indignation, "These wines have been pre-imbued with the word spirit secret technique. Only in your mouth do they taste like wine. In anyone else's, they're just plain water. Drinking them is pointless for me." After listening to the red-haired director's words, Leon clicked his tongue silently, then gave a mental thumbs up to Taurus His Excellency. Just as the Aquarius family has a secret technique specifically for suppressing the true god's body to extract materials for aberration generation, called God-suppressing forked fingers, the Taurus family also has auxiliary secret techniques to complement the main secret technique, Anomaly Forge. The red-haired director probably fell victim to the Taurus family's recognized masterword spirit, which places a security lock on an anomalous object, preventing those who do not meet the conditions from using it normally. The 12 ant nests above the Virgin Branches building are locked by this very technique. A technique capable of locking even-numbered anomalous objects was used to secure some ordinary liquor. Taurus His Excellency certainly used a sledgehammer to crack a nut, making much ado about very little. Well, then I really can't do anything about it now. Leon never expected the Taurus director to go so far. Unable to help, he could only shrug his shoulders helplessly, looking sympathetically at the red-haired director, who seemed about to cry, and quickly moved the boxes of liquor into the storage room on the first floor. The red-haired director stood nearby, dejected, staring at the good wines she could only see but not drink, as an intense envy and acidity rose within her. Should she make things difficult for him, or find an excuse to dock his pay? Watching Leon, like an industrious little squirrel, continuously move boxes of fine wine indoors, the red-haired director's gaze grew increasingly resentful and dangerous. Even though it wasn't Leon's fault that she couldn't drink these fine wines, I had bought him drinks countless times, with long bills from the tavern, and whenever I had something good, I always thought of this bastard. But now he enjoys it alone. He drinks, I watch. He gets drunk, I crave. If I don't do something, I won't sleep well this month. Hiss. That red-haired woman seems to have really stewed over this. After Leon finished moving all the wine and firmly closed the stockroom door, the black goat emerged from the storage room's light bulb glass, cautioning nervously, "Kid, let me tell you, although she treats people in the bureau well, she's no ordinary grudge holder. You must tread carefully these next few days." Indeed, with so much fine wine at hand, yet unable to drink a single drop, the director's bitterness was thick enough to solidify. Listening to the black goat's advice, Leon nodded reluctantly, acknowledging its judgment. Then he twisted open a bottle of wine, taking a refined small sip. "There's nothing for it, although it feels a bit unfair to the director. Once I finish these 1,000 sips, my martyr of the wine country will upgrade to the second heterochromatic badge, Immortal of Liquor. Moreover, I wasn't the one who set the word spirit, so it truly isn't my fault. Truly worthy of a bead of the god of wine. This wine is remarkable." With great restraint, Leon resisted the urge to gulp it down, silently recapped the bottle, then opened another, all while trying to keep his expression less joyful, feeling the guilt of eating alone behind the director's back. He gulped down a big swig. Delicious. How come you drank only half of it?" Seeing Leon staggering out from storage, his face flushed red from drinking, the red-haired director, who had been crouching and waiting for him for quite some time, couldn't help but tease sarcastically. "Does our dear prince feel it's no fun drinking alone and wants to find some pretty girls to drink with to cheer up? That's fine." To the red-haired director's surprise, Leon didn't shyly smile in embarrassment but nodded vigorously instead. And then, stumbling over, he grinned, his eyes somewhat hazy. "Drinking alone is really boring. It's better with someone else. I think you're perfect." "Oh my?" Hearing Leon's words, the red-haired director glanced at the hand resting on her shoulder, raising her eyebrows slightly, her beautiful fox-like eyes narrowing. "You jerk, having good liquor and not sharing with me. Now that you're drunk, you even dare flirt with me? How is this any different from another woman having a child with my husband and then expecting me to raise it?" All right, whatever His Highness says goes. With a sly grin, she grabbed Leon's hand, looping it around her shoulder, and supported the drunken Leon as they headed toward his office. With each step, she proposed, "Though I don't drink much, but I know someone who does. Do you want her to join you?"
No.
"It's okay." As they passed by his office and reached Senior Emma's office door, Leon half-drunkenly chuckled and then appealed, "Both of you, it would be more lively." Want it lively? Fine. I'll make sure it's lively for you. Rolling her eyes at the thoroughly drunken Leon, the red-haired director let out a sneer, then opened the door to Emma's office and led the staggering Leon inside. "Leon, how much did you drink?" Seeing Leon's state, Emma, who was in the midst of writing a report behind her desk, couldn't help but look slightly surprised. She then glanced at the red-haired director, casting a mildly reproachful gaze. "This is all your fault. The previously steady and reliable Leon is almost turned into a booze hound by you. What does it have to do with me? I wasn't the one forcing liquor down his throat. I almost didn't force the bottle on him. Most of the time he wanted to drink himself. Okay? I am maybe responsible for 50% at most." Returning Emma's exasperated glance, the red-haired director blinked knowingly, mischievously signaling with her eyes, "Remember that time I was drunk and insisted on cuddling with you, and you scared me sober? Do that trick on him and help him sober up." Isn't that a bit harsh? Leon might end up with psychological scars. It's fine, a good deterrent to help him quit. This rascal just tried to have both of us drink with him, might as well give him a memorable lesson. Really? Did Leon actually say such things? You're not pulling my leg, are you? I didn't. Drink too much. Just 1,000 bottles, only a sip from each. By the way, Senior Emma. While the red-haired director and Emma were silently exchanging intense opinions, Leon seemed to sober up a bit, then let go of the arm around the red-haired director's shoulder, stepped forward, and held Emma's hand. I've always wanted to thank you. With an unexpectedly sincere opening, Leon held Emma's soft and delicate hand, and with an emotional face, he said, since joining the Purification Bureau, you've helped me a lot, from giving me handy weapons to teaching me how to complete tasks, tirelessly advising me on staying safe during missions. Oh, and also the director. In the red-haired director's slightly dazed expression, Leon released his grip, turned back to look at her, and with gratitude in his blurry, drunken eyes, he said, if it hadn't been for the director letting me join the Purification Bureau, I might have already, Also, I have always remembered how the director cared for me, always keeping it close to my heart, never forgetting. Although my current skills are still lacking, and my ability to help is somewhat limited yet, I certainly will continue to work hard, becoming someone you can trust and rely on in the future. A more dependable person. Why suddenly say such heartfelt things? Listening to it is really quite embarrassing. Receiving Emma's coy eye roll implying, you were indeed bluffing, Leon would never say that. The red-haired director, feeling a slight warmth in her heart, couldn't help but sigh, giving up the thought of pranking Leon mercilessly. But unfortunately, what a shame, director. You also have quite a few flaws. After consuming over 1,000 types of liquor, Leon, barely managing to stand, bluntly commented. The director is very reliable when not drinking, but once drunk, your mind is as simple as a monkey's, all about drinking and nothing else. When you're in high spirits, even my dog passing by has to be caught and given a couple of drinks. And if you restrain yourself from drinking for too long, you'll seek other mischiefs, uttering sinister things to prank people. Also, you're vengeful, exceptionally petty, always offering me terrible advice. Looks like I really need to help you sober up. If I let you continue listing, Olivia could definitely hold a grudge against you. Listening to Leon rant on like bamboo shoots pouring out of a water tube, observing the red-haired director's increasingly dark expression, Emma couldn't help but let out a chuckle. She then reached for Leon's hand, using her nail to lightly scrape the pad of his thumb. Something astonishing happened to Emma. Although she could still touch Leon's hand normally, the intense soul pain-inducing scrape miraculously turned into a phantom in a strange twist, as if the anomalous object had never activated. What's going on? Beside her, the red-haired director noticed this peculiar scenario as well. With a frown, she lifted her hand and snapped her fingers, several vibrant red strands of hair quietly falling and swiftly coiling around Leon's hand. Yet, the previous scene repeated. In a bizarre twist, those strands of slaughter-blood hair turned into illusionary bubbles and vanished, leaving Leon's wrist entirely unoccupied. Not even the numbered anomalous object works. Leon, wake up! Discovering such an astounding anomaly, the red-haired director immediately grasped Leon's shoulders, shaking the somewhat drowsy him awake. Her gaze full of seriousness, she inquired, what on earth is happening to you? What do you mean? Certainly your condition. Why were both Emma's and my anomalous objects forcibly restored upon contact with you? Oh, you mean that? Hearing the red-haired director's query, Leon chuckled sluggishly. I became the immortal of liquor, floating. Immortal of liquor, abnormal amber, no upgrade available, fond of savoring fine wine on the lips, fearless of tempestuous obstacles, dispelling gloomy clouds and dejection with a cup of gleeful spirits. Warn effect. Consuming a total weight of alcohol exceeding your body weight will put you into a special state, drunken life, dreamy death. Drunken life, dreamy death. During intoxication, all attacks capable of causing harm to your body will turn into mere illusions. All attacks capable of harming your soul will be fully dispelled by the state of drunkenness. As the cost of immunity to all harm during drunken life, dreamy death, You'll be unable to use any form of attack apart from your physical body, and due to your soul being clouded by intoxication, your cognitive processing speed will be forcibly decreased by 90%, making it difficult to restrain your actions and words through reason. Advancement route. Achieved the highest level. Cannot progress further. Hidden trait. No need to wear besides drunken life, dreamy death. You will never get drunk again. Was I sent back home? After rubbing his somewhat groggy eyes, Leon looked at the familiar ceiling overhead, barely determining his location. Of course, the main reason wasn't the ceiling, but the burly old man outside the window holding a big gardening shear and staring at him with ill intent. This was the 6th floor, and he was that persistent. Leon glanced speechlessly at the burly old man hanging outside the window, shook his slightly drowsy head, and struggled to get out of bed, trying hard to recall what had happened yesterday. He remembered that Taurus, His Excellency, had sent over some brewed liquor, and he had opened them all, taking a sip from each. But as he drank, his consciousness began to blur, and he couldn't control himself, gulping bigger sips. Many bottles at the end were even drained completely. No more drinking. Since I've reached the badge limit, I don't need to drink anymore. From now on, I'll stay away from alcohol unless absolutely necessary. Rubbing his swollen temples, Leon tried to recall what happened next, but no matter how hard he tried, all he could remember was stumbling out of the warehouse, drunkenly, after obtaining the Immortal in Liquor badge, and then knowing nothing more. Seeing the difficult to control one's behavior and language words in the Immortal in Liquor description, Leon couldn't help but feel guilty, hissing as he prayed he hadn't done anything too outrageous. While thinking this, he wobbled out of bed, slipped on his slippers, and walked out of the room. You finally woke up. Seeing Leon stumble out, with everything looking normal except for a slightly pale complexion, Anna, who was cooking red bean soup in the kitchen, immediately breathed a sigh of relief. She then turned off the heat, wiped her hands, took off her apron, and brought over the hangover soup, complaining with slight annoyance. Bro, what did you do yesterday? Why did you drink so much? You slept so deeply that even Melanie couldn't wake you by tickling your feet. No wonder. I wondered why I was wearing only one sock. Looking down at his bare right foot in his slipper, Leon chuckled awkwardly a few times, making up a couple of excuses to get by. Then, while drinking the soup Anna had handed him, he cautiously probed. Yesterday. You said a lot of drunken nonsense yesterday. Anna didn't even have to look at Leon's expression to know what he wanted to ask. She snorted, then brought out the boiled eggs and toast, describing with an expressionless face. After Sister Emma brought you back, reeking of alcohol, you held on to her hand, not letting go. You not only kept thanking her but also sighed and wished you had met her earlier. I felt something was wrong and secretly pinched you several times, but you didn't seem to feel it. You held on to Sister Emma, confessing that compared to a drunkard female monkey, her gentle nature was your favorite type. Then you said the age difference wasn't a problem, and if she weren't already married, you would pursue her desperately. Lastly, you pulled out all my celery and herbs from the windowsill, made them into a bouquet to give to her, insisting on one knee that she should. Please, stop. Listening to the ridiculous things he did in a drunken life, dreamy death state, Leon's face turned as red as a monkey's butt. He quickly drank the perfectly warm red bean soup in a gulp and then, with a flushed face, explained, Yesterday, that was a special situation. I definitely won't get drunk in the future. Well, in normal circumstances, I shouldn't. You better not. Thinking of her brother's drunken antics yesterday, babbling nonsense while holding on to someone, Anna's toes began to uncontrollably scratch her slippers, feeling awkward all over. After glaring at Leon for making her share in his embarrassment, the usually good-tempered Anna couldn't help but say irritably, Sister Emma said, after hearing your evaluation, that your director laughed happily and told you to be careful not to fall into her hands recently. She didn't know when you would wake up, so she took 2 days off for you to sober up before going back. Oh, right. At this point, Anna paused slightly, then scrutinized Leon with a face full of suspicion. Bro, I heard that when people get drunk, their self-control decreases, and they do things they usually think of but don't dare to do. So, you don't really have feelings for Sister Emma, do you? Feelings? If I'm not lying, I did think about it. After all, Senior Emma was gentle, beautiful, and particularly attentive to him, and ahem, but it was just a thought. Who doesn't have some fancy, romantic, even naughty little thoughts in their hearts? But those thoughts were just thoughts. People aren't beasts entirely driven by instinct, so they can't indulge without restraint. Therefore, these little thoughts would, after a brief consideration, be immediately suppressed by reason. However, after entering the drunken life, dreamy death state, his logic and thinking speed were weakened by more than 90%, and the thoughts kept firmly restrained were slightly uncontainable, so it wasn't my fault. Blame it on Immortal in Liquor. After convincing himself for a while, shifting most of the blame to the Immortal in Liquor, Leon felt a little better, then earnestly said to Anna, "Don't say such things. Drunken words can't be taken seriously. Senior Emma has always cared for me, and I really respect her. Indeed, I remember yesterday when Sister Emma refused your love, blushed, and wanted to leave. You held on to her, insistently asking several times if you really didn't have a chance, being quite respectful indeed." Holding back the urge to laugh, after contemplating Leon's antics yesterday, Anna took a deep breath and proactively changed the subject. "What about Sister Veronica, then? When will you and she get married?" "Well, that's a bit complicated." Recalling the cunning and charming princess who was hard to resist in every way, Leon couldn't help but hesitated. Honestly, facing Princess Veronica's persistent pursuit, he found it hard to withstand, but he wasn't ready to give in just yet. After all, as good as the princess was, what she truly wanted was probably the Ryan family resources, not him personally. Although it sounded a bit pretentious, he still wanted someone who genuinely came after him as a partner. Additionally, he wasn't ready for early marriage at this prime age. Felt like something was missing. "I'll stall for now." After saying a classic scumbag line, having struggled with Princess Veronica several times but failing to call off the engagement, Leon explained with helpless eyes, "There are many aspects involved in our relationship. It's not as simple as it looks, and it really can't be sorted out for the time being." "Fine. You take your time." After glaring at Leon again, Anna took a deep breath and continued coldly, "Let me ask you, Isha, Olivia, Amy, Nicole, what's the deal with these? Huh? How do you? I heard these names last night when I was wiping your face with a warm towel. You were mumbling them." Glaring at Leon again, Anna gritted her teeth and said, "If you hadn't been drunk, I would have never known you were so. Hurry up and tell me. What's the story with these people? Who do you actually like?" Damn badge. Screwed me over. The Scales Gold sect had been a bit too active recently. After reviewing the results from Jerry's friends on the table, the red-haired director's fox-like eyes narrowed slightly. She then curled her knuckles and tapped the table thoughtfully. That toad previously smuggled itself in, causing havoc at Charles Department Store's shopping plaza, and nearly triggered a mass casualty event. Later, it allied with several major aristocrats, led by the Rose Massini family, and gathered many followers among the kingdom's nobles. The Scales Gold sect's activities over the past 2 months had already crossed a line. She should have driven these rats out from the sewers immediately, but was held up by the Aquarius director's issue, busy investigating with Beverly, and had no time to take action. Her weak stance seemed to send the Scales Gold sect the wrong signals, making them misjudge her tolerance and even daring to hold a meeting right in the capital city. It seemed she needed to take some severe action to give the Scales Gold sect a lesson they wouldn't forget. Having decided on the approach to take against the Scales Gold sect, the red-haired director stopped her habitual movement of thinking and looked up at Emma in front of her. "Emma, what do you think about the news Leon uncovered?" "Emma, I'm sorry. I just got a little distracted." Hearing the red-haired director call her name in confusion, Emma snapped back to reality and smiled apologetically. then asked as if nothing had happened, "Director, what did you just say about Leon? Why did it feel like since you sent Leon back yesterday, you've been acting a bit strange?" "What I meant wasn't what's going on with Leon. What I asked is, what's your opinion on this meeting information Leon obtained?" The red-haired director looked at Emma suspiciously but didn't find anything particularly notable, so she temporarily set aside her doubt and continued explaining. Previously, Leon took on a mission to rescue people at Rose Manor, where he encountered the bishop of the Scales Gold Sect's wealth-consuming lineage. He learned about their plan to hold a meeting and threatened the Massini family to notify him immediately once they received news of the Scales Gold Sect's gathering. And this morning, someone from the Massini family came, saying the Scales Gold Sect plans to meet 3 days from now. The location is set on Redwood Avenue in the capital city, specifically underground at the Massini family's Rose Manor. After briefly explaining the context, the red-haired director shared her thoughts. Compared to other secret cults, the Scales Gold Sect poses the least threat, but they've been quite unruly recently, not only choosing the capital city for their gathering but also bringing along 3 bishops. So, I want you to go over there and ensure they behave for a while. Okay. Taking on the task without hesitation, Emma glanced at the report on the table and then asked, "To what extent should this be done? Complete eradication? Or just capturing those 3 bishops?" As for the extent. Hearing Emma's question, the red-haired director thought for a moment and then said firmly, "Why don't you take the coffin of condemnation with you this time and see what the Scales Gold Sect people are up to? If it's the less harmful kind, you can go easy on them. After all, the Scales Gold Sect's doctrine isn't particularly extreme. Many join just to restore limbs or regain sight, so there's no need to be too harsh. But for those cat believers of the wealth-attracting lineage and snake believers of the wealth-consuming lineage, as long as their crimes are not severe, just scare them and expel them, preventing them from gathering and causing trouble. However, if it involves the wealth-spitting lineage, those toad believers responsible for acquiring limbs, health, happiness, and other exchange items, and the coffin of condemnation reacts, then eliminate them all, leaving none behind." Understood. After carefully listening to the red-haired director's instructions and noting the mission objectives, Emma nodded slightly, prepared to leave, but was called back by the red-haired director. "Emma, did something happen yesterday?" Why do you ask?" "Because you seem a bit off today." Seeing her best friend turn back with a puzzled look, the red-haired director narrowed her eyes slightly and said with certainty, "Emma, tell me the truth. After you took Leon back yesterday, something else must have happened. Otherwise, you wouldn't suddenly seem distracted. He didn't try anything on you, did he? How could that be?" Emma couldn't help but laugh at this and said, "What are you talking about? Leon isn't that kind of person. I was distracted thinking about something else, unrelated to him." "All right then." Although still feeling something was amiss, Emma's expression was completely normal, showing no signs of anything off. The red-haired director had to temporarily shelve this thought and ask with genuine concern, "Emma, how have you been lately?" "I'm doing okay. The wound from the Blood Oath swordfish during the mission at Ryan Harbor, has it healed?" "It's all healed long ago. With the coffin of condemnation consuming so much, can your body still handle it?" "No problem." "Leon really didn't harass you yesterday?" "He really didn't." Seeing the red-haired director sneakily ask once again amid some not-so-sincere concern, Emma couldn't help but respond with a face full of helplessness. "Ali, if you keep this up, I'm really going to get angry." All right, I won't ask anymore. Is that fine?" Annoyed, the red-haired director clicked her tongue and said, "Anyway, you be careful. When people get drunk, their self-control slips, often revealing suppressed thoughts. Anyway, Leon doesn't seem as honest as he looks. I think he has some intentions towards you, so don't let yourself get." "Ali." Okay. I won't say anymore, I really won't." Surrendering under Emma's slightly exasperated gaze and honestly watching her leave, the red-haired director stared at Emma's retreating figure, noticing 3 black marks and 1 red mark on her back, and couldn't help but frown and ponder. She asked Emma 4 questions. And Emma's replies were 1 falsehood and 3 truths. So did Leon harass her yesterday? Asterisk. Achoo! I told you to wear more. And now you're catching a cold. Anna glared at Leon, who was wearing autumn clothes in winter and looked rather thin. She pulled out a scarf she had prepared and handed it to Leon, who was sneezing repeatedly, and also produced a pair of gloves from her bag. Put these on quickly. Stop trying to be tough. I'm not trying to be tough. I really am not cold. Fine, I'll put it on. Yeah, sure, you're not cold. Wear the gloves too. Okay. Rubbing his nose, which suddenly itched frequently due to his attempt to be flirtatious, being noticed and his family status plummeting, Leon could only take the scarf and gloves and honestly start putting them on under his sister's glare. But frankly, even though the level 1 corrosion value had already provided some reinforcement, making him somewhat cold and heat-resistant, after putting on the scarf and gloves and blocking the cold wind from entering his collar and cuffs, it felt noticeably more comfortable. Stand still, don't move. Anna rose on tiptoe to adjust Leon's scarf, sealing off any remaining drafts, then nodded in satisfaction, reaching out to hold Leon's arm. Let's go. Since you're free today, we'll go to Beverly's parents' meeting. Parent-teacher meeting. Hearing this familiar yet foreign term from Anna's mouth, Leon couldn't help but feel a little dazed. Over the past period, he had been involved in a series of bizarre events, not only outsmarting and battling various enemies with all kinds of abilities, but even landing on an asteroid over 70,000 kilometers from the ground, solo facing off with the Aquarius director in front of dozens of branch directors with hierarchies equivalent to the true god. Not to be too modest, but although his own strength wasn't very strong, he could no longer be considered an ordinary person altogether. Adding in the title of the Empty Shell Duke, he now faintly had the ability to influence the world, well, a tiny part of the world. And now, being this important figure who just a few days ago thwarted the Aquarius director's scheme and indirectly safeguarded the world, he was about to head to his younger brother and sister's school to attend a community school-organized parent-teacher meeting, and incidentally, as a decision-making parent, discuss the schooling progression of those 2 little brats at home. It was quite a peculiar feeling. What's the matter? After waiting for a while without hearing Leon's response, noticing a somewhat dazed look on his face, Anna couldn't help but gaze at him with concern. She then leaned in and softly asked, "Is your headache still lingering? If you're not feeling well, you should take a good rest at home for the day. I can go to the parent-teacher meeting myself." No, my drink has already worn off. Sensing the worry in his sister's eyes, Leon felt a warmth fill his heart, then shook his head with a smile and said, "I was just reminiscing about some interesting things, so I got a bit distracted. Plus my work has been hectic. It's rare to get a chance to spend time with you guys. The carriage has arrived. Let's get on board first." Once the public carriage pulled over and came to a steady stop by the roadside, Leon reached out to protect Anna's head, watching her bend down to climb into the carriage. He then followed her in, sitting with her by the window. "Oh, right." As if recalling something, Leon curiously asked, "I remember Bridge Public School's elementary division lasts 6 years, right? William and Melanie enrolled more than half a year late, and there are still 2 months before they reach the 2nd grade. Isn't it kind of early to start discussing future schooling?" "It's not early at all." Hearing this, Anna shook her head, expressing her mixed feelings of happiness and worry. "It's not like the school I attended back then. Bridge Public School ranks among the top schools, with plans for students' future paths laid out early. Typically, the first year focuses on teaching some basic knowledge while observing which areas show potential. Then, in the 2nd and 3rd years, they try to nurture in corresponding directions and conduct trial and error in direction. If the identified direction shows limited talent, they switch to another. Once a schooling target is more or less decided, the 4th, 5th, and 6th years focus on intensive learning. Apart from specialized subjects in these 3 years, they need to frequently communicate with associated high schools, participate in the activities of corresponding schools, build good relations with teachers, aiming to secure exemption from entrance exams or recommendation letters from teachers of the concerned schools. Goodness, is it that competitive? Not having much knowledge in this area, after listening to Anna, Leon couldn't help but click his tongue and exclaim, "William isn't even 7 yet. Isn't it a bit early to ponder over these things?" "It really isn't early anymore." Anna couldn't help but roll her eyes at Leon, then explained, "They started school at a little over 6, nearing 13 at graduation time, which is when they should choose their future high school. Over 90% of students can only go to ordinary high schools to learn a trade to make a living, graduating at 16 when they come of age, then immediately go out to work. Even positions like newspaper typesetters or factory materials technicians count as rare good jobs. Only less than 10% of the students can get into those exceptionally good high schools, striving for 3 years before trying to get a recommendation letter or exam eligibility to further pursue notable universities. If you don't start early, how can you be competitive? Oh right, by the kingdom's law, 16 is considered adult, and university is far from universally accessible. Only a small fraction of students with both outstanding family background and talent can consider it, while most people directly enter the workforce post-high school graduation. So although it feels like children to the perception, the significance of the last 3 years in a community school strikes a strong resemblance to the 3 years of high school in one's understanding, making the early, rigorous competition quite the norm. As Leon pondered over Anna's words combined with his thoughts, he roughly understood the foundational logic of the school's approach. Taking into account the kingdom's advancement method, which does not follow a relatively fair uniform examination system, but instead allows each school to recruit on its own initiative, organizing their own interviews and written tests, there are more paths to run around. After all, although the entrance exam for interviews supposedly has no threshold, merely requiring a community school's graduation certificate and passing scores for each basic subject, in theory, as long as you passed both tests, you could enter. However, against second-grade initiatives like Bridge Public Schools' Pathway Survey, and later years of intensive study aimed at target schools, coupled with occasional participation in corresponding high school activities, developing familiarity with teachers responsible for interviews, and potentially even getting insight into exam scope, coming from a regular family and school background without explosively strong talent, would almost certainly not get a foot in the door. So while opportunities appear equally accessible, with everyone seemingly running the same routes and aiming for the same endpoints, practically when you're vigorously training and running, others are already installing cyber limbs and even building teleportation gates towards the endpoint. Truly absurd. Gently shaking his head, Leon looked at Anna beside him, seeing her somewhat anxious expression, and couldn't help but pat her hand, softly reassuring her. "Don't worry, William and Melanie are just mischievous. They're definitely not unintelligent. They're quite bright, and as long as they keep learning systematically, they will more or less have a promising future. Furthermore, my salary isn't low, and besides, even if, in the future, they can't attend the best schools, finding a good job for them shouldn't be too hard. If worst comes to worst, supporting them for a few more years also wouldn't be a problem." "That's exactly what I'm most worried about." Hearing Leon's words, Anna couldn't help but express her frustration. A few days ago, the school's teacher gave out a survey for the students to fill out their expectations for their future. Do you know what Melanie wrote? What did she write? She wants to find a handsome and wealthy husband to support and spoil her, to then spend her life casually drinking and eating happily. Mentioning Melanie's daydream aspiration, Anna clenched her fists continually, then gritted her teeth with anger as she lamented. After the teacher saw the survey, they talked to her for half a day, explaining that she shouldn't pin her future hopes on such things, that a husband can't support her for life, asking her to reconsider her plans. This little brat thought for a long time, eventually removing the bit about finding a husband, changing it to having you support her in her earlier years, and William in her later years, while she plays with dolls, eats snacks, and drinks milk tea happily all her life. Coincidentally, the survey entry truly matched my perception of Melanie. Well, that's why I say it's a bit too early. After being taken aback, Leon, staying silent for a while, tried to placate, asking a child what they want to do in the future, of course. They can't be clear. Giving such childish answers is quite normal. So there's no need to get too worked up. Right, how about William? What did he write? His responses were quite mature. Drawing a deep breath, Anna looked filled with despair. He wants to launch a rebellion, overthrow the royal family and become the king himself, then lead his army west to east, sweeping across the 12 kingdoms and rule over the world. Teacher, I think my expectations for my own future are actually very realistic. Meanwhile, when the other pair of siblings were hastily heading to the battlefield in a carriage, this pair had already taken the forms they filled out and approached their homeroom teacher, who was in charge of the parent-teacher meeting. After placing the Pan-Continent Unification War draft on the table, William stood beside the desk with his hands behind his back and said to the smiling homeroom teacher, "Unlike my sister's ridiculous dream of being a freeloader, my dream has a much greater chance of becoming a reality. Of course, if you call my brother and sister over, I might be forced to deny the feasibility of this plan to avoid unnecessary beatings. However, since the concept itself is correct, I will not genuinely give in. And by using force to suppress me, you, teacher, will not only lose my heartfelt respect but also the position of homework minister in the new kingdom I envision. So I hope you consider carefully before you decide to report me." Well, this is too much. Looking at William, who stood like a little adult in front of him, seriously persuading him, the homeroom teacher of Class 1, Year 1 at Bridge Public School involuntarily twitched his lips twice, unsure of what to say. This child, let's say he's not smart, but at the age of 6 or 7, he's already negotiating terms with me, even trying to bribe me with the position of homework minister. He's a little genius. But to say he's smart, his dreams are absurdly outrageous, plotting not only to overthrow the royal family but also to conquer the 12 kingdoms. Honestly, I'm really curious to meet his parents and see what kind of family can raise such a uniquely dumb yet smart kid. Teacher, I know you don't believe in me, and you even think I'm naive. After waiting for a moment without hearing a response from the homeroom teacher, William thought for a while and then proactively said, "I admit that the plan I filled out earlier was a bit rushed, so it may not seem very feasible to you. But I've sorted out my thoughts these past few days and wrote a new version of the Pan-Continent Unification Plan. I guarantee it'll satisfy you." In the homeroom teacher's somewhat devastated expression, William opened his notebook, his proposal for the Pan-Continent Unification Plan, pointing at a world map cut out from a geography book, and said with a serious face, "After I overthrow the royal family and unify the kingdom, I plan to ally with the coal-rich nobles of the kingdom of Hyzen, cut off their winter coal supply to the northern kingdom, causing them to lack the ability to heat, forcing them to recklessly move south in an unprepared state for a planned ambush." Taking out a piece of charcoal picked up from Leon's bedside, William drew a big, heavy cross at the location of Lane County on the map. Using a voice full of persuasion, he continued, "Teacher, imagine the situation then. If we could defeat the Northern Kingdom in one fell swoop and avenge the war 6 years ago, I could secure the throne completely, with subsequent military actions receiving strong support. Afterward, we could use the war reparations paid by the Northern Kingdom to massively purchase seafood from the Kingdom of Sao, befriending the Kingdom of Sao known as the Thousand Sails Maritime Country. Then, adhering to the core strategy of making distant alliances and attacking nearby, and sea-land synergy, swiftly launch a surprise attack to seize the mines in the Kingdom of Thunderstorms Vardistan, exchanging abundant energy resources for technology and weapons from Croak, the city of machinery. After 10 to 15 years of effort, once sufficient military accumulation is achieved, we can control ports and important land transport routes, making the Kingdom of Morna, which heavily relies on commerce, submit and join our cause. Next, by encircling them on 2 sides, we could annihilate the Kingdom of Orlison caught in between our 2 forces, taking over its most important grain-producing area to solve the Southwest Kingdom's long-standing food shortage problem, thus overcoming the last shortcoming and fully embarking on the path to conquest. Looking at the string of plans written in sloppy handwriting, William's homeroom teacher couldn't hold it anymore. With quivering lips, he asked, "Do you especially love my geography class because you're thinking about these things? Not just your geography class, but also Logan's history class?" William replied earnestly, "To accomplish my plan, both subjects are essential to master. So, Even though I scored only 5 in math, I've already self-taught geography and history to the level of 4th grade and read all the relevant books for under 10s in the library, accumulating the knowledge necessary to begin implementing my plan. Asterisk, so you really have been working hard to study for that dream of world unification? Huh. Asterisk. Looking at the not-so-direct but thoroughly crafted unification plan, with a childish but carefully annotated handwriting, William's homeroom teacher swallowed hard and, steeling himself, advised, "This, the hardest part of any task, is the beginning. You see, your plan assumes right from the start that you've already overthrown. Become the king. The starting point is too high. As the saying goes, for a merchant, earning the first copper wheel is much harder than earning the first 10,000 gold wheels. So instead of aiming to unify the world, why not make more achievable plans for the nearer future, like scoring 20 in math on the next test?" After seriously listening to his homeroom teacher's advice, William frowned and thought for a while, then nodded with full approval. As expected of a teacher I respect, while others aim as far as possible, you focused on the immediate path and reminded me not to stumble over the royal family's small rock before I even start. It seems the position of homework minister might be a waste of your talent. Anyway, thank you for the reminder, teacher. I'll go find Mr. Logan now to ask for some past coup information to see how I can overthrow the royal family and become the new king. Hold on. That's not what I meant. Come back here. Come back. Watching William excitedly leave with his notebook and head to the history department's office across the hall, the homeroom teacher quickly stood up to chase after him. But whether it was sitting for too long or the shock she just received being too much, she swayed as the room spun around her and fell back into her chair. "Teacher? Are you okay?"
No.
"Nothing. Thank you." After catching her breath in the chair, seeing Melanie approaching with concern, the slightly chubby homeroom teacher couldn't help but advise, "Melanie, after you go back, can you please persuade your brother for me to give up on that dream? Even if you can't convince him, at least don't let him talk about rebellion anymore." Okay. Okay? After hearing the homeroom teacher's words, Melanie's big eyes spun around. Then she cheerfully said, "But if I help you out, shouldn't you also help me out? Like, maybe accept my form as it is and stop making me revise it over and over. Can you? Well, that's really not possible." Looking at Melanie before her, who wasn't as outrageous as William but equally troublesome, the slightly chubby homeroom teacher took a deep breath and then sighed helplessly. "Melanie, it's not that I want you to change it, but just think about it. If you do nothing and let your brother and sister support you, what will others think of you? They'd probably be really envious of me." "Haha, teacher, I'm just joking with you." Seeing the homeroom teacher's lips trembling again, Melanie shook the little pigtails on her head that Anna had tied, and said with a giggle, "I'm not a fool like William. Of course, I know being a freeloader would get me laughed at. Then why do you still? Because my life is my own, not to please others." Melanie raised her little face and said seriously, "Teacher, people who care too much about what others think will live very tiring lives. As long as you know what you truly want and strive to get it, that's enough. Are other people's idle remarks really that important? If it really doesn't work, teacher, I revised the form again today. Take a look and see if it's okay this time." With the slightly chubby teacher's bewildered expression, Melanie handed over the form, speaking earnestly, "Like William, I've been thinking about how to achieve my dream in the past few days too. First, William can't be relied upon. Although he will provide me with the best life, if I rely on him, he will definitely bully me. Sister Anna won't work either, as she will likely disapprove of me and forcibly drive me to work. So the best choice is the big brother. Big brother doesn't like to force people, and he never even hits or scolds William or me. So all I need to do is find a super rich woman that big brother likes, try to marry him off to her, and my life will be worry-free for the rest of my days. By the way, teacher, when you said during form filling that this form was for information collection only and wouldn't be shown to parents, you weren't lying to us, were you? It seems we were too naive. Looking through the windows of the great hall at the cards with the parents' names and the folded survey forms on the tables, William couldn't help but sigh with a sense of wistfulness, then said to Melanie, who was beside him with a face full of panic, "Just as I predicted the worst outcome, the adult world doesn't value trust. The promises they make might not even be worth as much as your religious studies homework. You're not going to escape this beating." Hearing William's words, Melanie, who was already panicking, stomped her foot in agitation and glared at him angrily. "What do you mean I can't escape this beating? What you wrote was much worse than mine. If Sister Anna sees it, she'll definitely hit you harder than me." "Not necessarily." William looked at his silly sister with pity, then placed his hands behind his back and said calmly, "A 6- or 7-year-old kid saying he wants to conquer the world is just amusing to adults. But a 6- or 7-year-old kid saying she wants to be a lazybones will surely be scolded severely. I'm not as stupid as you. If I weren't certain that I wouldn't get beaten, why would I write about my future plans knowing I might be betrayed?" After hearing William's response, Melanie was dumbstruck. Her eyes widened in disbelief like a little frog struck by lightning. You knew you would be betrayed, so why didn't you warn me?" "Why should I warn you?" William responded with curiosity. "Your dream is to be a lazybones. If you manage to succeed, I'd have to take care of you for the rest of your life. In theory, to prevent you from clinging to me and causing me trouble for life, I should have reported you to Sister Anna. I haven't told on you to Sister Anna, which is already an extra favor to you out of sibling love. How could I also remind you? I'm going to fight with you. Are you sure?" William raised his eyebrows a little, surprised, after dodging Melanie's lunge. "Your contents are almost blasphemous. I still have that homework that can make the religious studies teacher die of anger. Not handed in yet. Melanie, you don't want to rewrite your assignment, do you?" You. Give up your dream of being a lazybones and help me instead." William patted Melanie's shoulder seriously. "I've thought it through. If I want to unify the world, I must first overthrow the kingdom. To overthrow the kingdom, I must first acquire enough power, and I've already got a plan on how to gain power. Charlotte from Level 2 is the Prime Minister's youngest daughter. As soon as the parent-teacher meeting is over, I'll buy some hair clips and sugar figurines to confess to her. If she agrees to marry me, maybe I can get a seat in Congress through her father." "You're planning this?" Melanie was shocked. "Despicable. You always go to play with Charlotte because of this." "Not really." William shook his head and said, "I like playing with Charlotte because she's the prettiest girl in school, and she always brings me snacks from home. It being a pleasant surprise that she's the Prime Minister's youngest daughter is just a bonus." "Huh? Didn't you just tell Melly from 3rd grade yesterday that she was the most?" "That's not important, Melanie. The most important thing now is that I need your help." Seeing William's serious look, Melanie hesitated and asked, "What help?" "Lend me your pocket money." "Huh?" William grabbed Melanie's shoulders and looked directly into her eyes with a serious face. "If I keep eating the snacks Charlotte brings to school and never give her any gifts in return, my status in the family will drop once we're married. Melanie, you don't want your twin brother to be looked down upon by your future sister-in-law, do you?" "Of course I don't." "Wait a minute. She hasn't even agreed to marry you yet." "She will agree," William said confidently. "The story my big brother told me said that proposing isn't the call to charge, but the declaration of victory after the war. Since I dare to do this, I'm sure I'll succeed. But after Charlotte agrees to marry me, I'll do your homework for next week." "Well, you'd better keep your word. Don't write something nonsensical to fool me." "Don't worry." "Melanie." William. Just as Melanie was reaching into her pocket, hesitantly preparing to take out money, their homeroom teacher came rushing over in a flustered state. Seeing the 2 tiny figures squatting outside the great hall, she breathed a sigh of relief but also spoke in a slightly exasperated tone. "Didn't I tell you to meet at the classroom door, and then we'd come to the great hall together? Why did you?" Teacher, why did you just arrive? Being the designated scapegoat of the twins, Melanie's cute little face wrinkled slightly. Then she pinched her skirt and sniffed her chilled red nose, ready to throw the blame. You just said to discuss future matters later and let us come to the parents' meeting first, right? So we came here and found no one, and we were scared you wouldn't find us, so we didn't dare run around and waited here. Boo-hoo. It's so cold outside the hall, and the wind is strong. Asterisk, did I really say that? But I meant for you to gather in the classroom, not come directly here. It seems I wasn't clear enough, leading to their misunderstanding. Asterisk. Sorry, the teacher didn't make it clear. After catching her breath, relaxing a bit, the homeroom teacher patted Melanie's little head, opened the door to the great hall and let them in. Then she gently reminded, the seats by the windows on the east side are for our level 1. The side door next to the stage leads to the backstage of the hall. If anything happens, knock on the door and find an adult in the hall or backstage to help. Melanie, William, the teacher will go back once more to bring other students over. Can you wait here first? Okay. We'll stay right here, waiting for you to return. Oh, we got it. After the homeroom teacher hurried away, Melanie, who had just been sitting obediently like a good child, immediately jumped up full of excitement. Quick, quick, quick. Where's your charcoal pencil? Hurry. Take it out and change our forms. Are you an idiot? William sighed, glancing at his silly sister. The teacher has already seen them, and we can't imitate the teacher's handwriting. Are you trying to get Sister Anna to spank you even harder? Can't change them? Then what to do? Remembering Sister Anna's angry look, worried she'd be spanked in public, Melanie racked her brain trying to find a way to break the situation. However, a solution wasn't easy to come by. Even after thinking for a long time, she couldn't come up with a good idea, and footsteps started to scatter outside the hall as the parents called for the meeting were about to arrive. The parents were almost here. It was too late. Sister Anna would... Wait, parents. Just as Melanie was anxiously spinning in circles, she suddenly spotted the name tag from level 2 next door. A sudden inspiration struck her, and she rushed over, swapping Charlotte Mondial's name tag with the one next to it that said William Ryan. Question mark. You have to share the blame with me. Under William's puzzled gaze, Melanie took out her bulging purse, waved it in front of him, and then bossily ordered, if I'm the only one in trouble, Sister Anna will definitely double punish me. We must distract her attention. William, if you still want me to lend you pocket money, you have to directly ask Charlotte if she'll marry you in front of her parents later.